Yueka then brought Su Xing to the place where he should live. That was somewhere more remote than Pure Heart Peak. A place known as Mirror's Flower Stream. The mountain stream of a valley. A white curtain extended into the sky. 2 ranges upon ranges of mountains. Verdant and lush bamboo forests hid the sky and covered the earth. An environment that was even quiet and secluded. Did your master have any other words? Yueka feigned indifference as she asked. With this mood, how could Su Xing not know what she was thinking about? He seized the chance to console her. Actually, I often heard master keep saying a phrase over and over, but I just do not know what purpose it has. What phrase? Yueka's brows rose. With this life I shan't waste. Yueka was shaken. She lowered her head, and Su Xing could not tell what she was thinking about. The winding path went through a remote place, and then he saw a bamboo house. He saw outside the house was an open space where a scholarly youth was currently practicing something. The posture his palm danced through was quick and skillful, and several seals later, a blue flame appeared in his hand while the other hand had a red flame. Lianxin, Yueka called. The youth stowed his hands and seeing them, he very deferentially welcomed them, crisply yelling, Master! I shall give you an introduction. He is Tang Lianxin, and henceforth he is your senior brother. This is Su Xing, a new disciple received for master. Properly acquaint yourselves. Yueka made the introductions. Tang Lianxin. His name really was very effeminate. Su Xing restrained himself from smiling, scrutinizing the youth before him. With delicate features, he had grown into a scholarly elegance, a contrarily charming child. It was just that he looked rather cold, his expression awfully loathsome, seemingly as if he did not like this junior brother. Hello. He faintly cupped his fist, his etiquette very precise. Starting from this day, guide junior brother Su Xing according to what Master 3 has arranged. Take good care of him, and as far as the established rules of my school, stay for a moment and explain them to him. Disciple understands. And another thing, Yueka said. From now into the future, Master hopes you two can speak more in the future, interact more. Master certainly does not want to let others crack jokes when they see you two. Disciple engraves this to memory. Yueka was still not finished speaking. One last thing, from this day onwards, you two must eat, live, rest and work together. Suffer misfortune together, enjoy blessings together. Regard each other as brothers in a family, do you understand? Master, could it be you want me to sleep with him? Tang Lianxin's brow creased, his forehead somewhat in rejection. Even if it was not him, Su Xing himself felt this was awkward. His heart said this beautiful woman could not possibly be a Fujoshi, could she? Making 2 grown men rest together under a large blanket. Both sleeping under a large blanket is unnecessary, right? Su Xing awkwardly said. Tang Lianxin nodded his head. Is there a reason why brothers cannot sleep on one bed? Could it be you two are afraid you will be unable to cut off your own sleeves? 5 Yueka coldly said. Su Xing thought fuck. He indeed had to concede defeat. Lianxin, you have come to this school for 2 years. Other than teacher, you have never interacted with other people. Although your innate talent in tool refinement exceeds others, you use your time on this field. Doing so is not altogether inexcusable. But teacher still hopes you can be more open and clear, understand? Yueka's eyes contained some regret. Young lord, she is very much like a stepmother. Wu Xingjie joked. Disciple follows your orders. Tang Lianxin cautiously replied. Tomorrow, teacher will again come to see you too. Yueka nodded, stepped onto a flying sword, and thus soared into the air. Tang Lianxin looked at Su Xing, locking his brows. He suddenly asked, Junior brother Su Xing, did you truly come to sincerely learn tool refinement? Of course heaven and earth can attest to that. Su Xing was calm. Then good. Though Tang Lianxin seemed unwilling, he still simply introduced Yueka's established rules for the school. Yueka, the 4 Styles School's junior sister, could be counted as one of the sect's 2 great elders, the other elder of which was Yuqi Qingshan. In the 4 Styles School, she was a peak tool refinement master, an expert in the heavenly water heart flame, whose divine intent for refining magic weapons was extremely powerful. Yueka resided in the heavenly water mansion. 6. The teaching style she had for apprentices was to have them develop on their own, regularly arranging at set intervals some assignments for those under her school that were required to be complete within a time limit. If it was not accomplished, the first time would double the required objective. The second time was direct expulsion from the school. The rules were extremely harsh, and in her words, if even her most simply arranged assignments were unable to be completed, then the student did not have any qualifications to study alongside her. Thus, besides Tang Lianxin, Zhu Yueke's current disciple was just Su Xing. The rest of the time, as long as the sect did not forbid it, there were no restrictions, so he actually was very free. This just happened to be aligned with Su Xing's intentions. Of course, Su Xing had only just come. Whether or not he could stand firmly still depended on after a month. This refining soul technique. 7. Heavenly talent and earthly treasure reflections. 8. Tool refinement school of thought. 9. Tool refinement magic circle. 10. 5 elements theory. Tang Lianxin rustled through and brought out several dozen thick books from inside the house, placing them one after the other into Su Xing's hands while saying, "These are the most basic learnings for a tool refinement master. The refining soul technique is used to cultivate your nature. What tool refinement masters pay particular attention to is exactly the tranquil and even-tempered. Only then would the chief flame of that heart would have even more understanding towards artifact and magic weapon refinement." This heavenly talent and earthly treasure reflections recorded many of the materials for refined ores and precious stones. Tool refinement masters must memorize these. The tool refinement style school of thought records a few great abstinences and trains of thought. This tool refinement magic circle is specially used to explain the structure of magic circles that are necessary for tool refinement, and the 5 elements theory speaks of the engendering and restraining of each of the 5 elements. Tang Lianxin carefully said word by word. Su Xing listened with hype, more or less remembering these things. It would appear the complex things are a few of the most basic learnings. After a month, I will come test you. Tang Lianxin said. Some of these I am already capable of. Su Xing said. If you feel you currently are capable, then I can test you right now. Go notify the master again. Tang Lianxin was very stiff, his head also not turning as he walked to the side, seemingly not wanting to interact with Su Xing any further. Su Xing put away these books. Can I go learn at other places? As you please, Tang Lianxin said indifferently. Su Xing wiped his sweat, feeling just like he had returned to that generation where teachings were force-fed, a kind of indescribably familiarity with somewhat of a hint of masochism. Su Xing first walked about the mirror's flower stream, roughly understanding the topography of the environment here. He felt this place was considerably good. The rear mountain also had a hot spring, and compared to flaming eastern island's torrid heat, the mirror's flower stream could be considered a scenic vacation spot. What made Su Xing even more surprised was that the mirror's flower stream's spiritual influence were abundant. He was currently above a spirit vessel, and this was an exceptionally good first choice for an immortal's abode. Choosing a safe location that no one would probably pay attention to, Su Xing let the beautiful girls appear. I really couldn't take it anymore. Finally, I can come out. Several silhouettes flashed, and 5 star maidens emerged from the star nest in succession. As if she had been suffocating for a very long time, Wuxia breathed great mouthfuls of refreshing air. Yuaner, help me keep watch over the surroundings for anyone who comes. Su Xing said. Sure, Yuan cutely hummed in agreement, and the thief star then escaped into the wind. Big brother, will you establish an immortal's abode here? And Suwen discovered this environment was not bad. The spiritual vessels were top-notch, but it was just too far. Suspended on its lonesome over the sea, returning afterwards was just inconvenient. This is the advantage of the purple star grade token. You can arbitrarily create 3 void immortals' abodes. Wuxia chuckled. A crafty rabbit has more than 3 burrows. These days, Su Xing already understood from this purple star Liangshan outlaw jade pendant the above-mentioned more or less confidently. He was very much of the mind to construct an immortal's abode. First of all, he controlled a magic circle, placing the purple star outlaw Rit, Lining Mei and Yin Yizhen each stood guard on his sides. Wu Xinjie placed the heaven's qi great array, in order to avoid causing alarm. Su Xing struck several complex seals. They saw the jade pendant suddenly rotate at lightning speed, slowly conforming to the magic circle. It was a kind of sight the naked eye could see, a silky and seemingly woven spiritual influence, then was sucked into the jade pendant. Purple light increased sharply. Su Xing raised his essence blood, then began to move his divine intent within his ocean of consciousness to build the structure of the immortal's abode. From the lounge, the storeroom, the martial arts room, the training room, the weapon refinement room to the garden, everything was as it should be. Under Su Xing's divine intent, a mountain design on the jade pendant then showed a vivid and lifelike immortal's abode depiction. The girls waited nearby, staring, unable to take their eyes away. The Liangshan outlaw jade pendant actually just created a void immortal's abode. It was just that for the purple star rank created a void immortal's abode, it required maximum spiritual influence to sustain. Unlike the earthly fiend and heavenly spirit grades, which could do with just abundant spiritual influences, the purple star grade immortal's abode could only be constructed upon a spiritual vessel. Only with this could he maintain the immortal's abode, and the constructed immortal's abode naturally was top quality. Whatever happy paradise Liangshan continent had would not be a match. This absorption of spiritual influences fully used 20 hours. During that time, Su Xing continuously imbued it with star energy. Creating the immortal's abode exhausted several revolutions, and he nearly was unable to support himself. And Suwen unceasingly gave Su Xing replenishment for his vital energy and star energy. They prepared more than a dozen bottles of returned spirit liquid, supplement qi spirit pills, and other pills were used right now. Finally, he even utilized 2 black turtle heavenly spirit pills, 11, that were received from opening earthly fiend grade treasure chests. He consumed medicines worth a value of at least 100 million liang of gold to finally successfully open the abode. Su Xing in the end fell paralyzed into Suwen's bosom, at last understanding from experience the feeling that was called death from excessive ejaculation. 12 Wu Xinjie was also endlessly speechless. The legendary purple star grade immortal's abode indeed was too frightening. However, this sort of exhaustion turned into something completely worth it after the 6 entered the immortal's abode. Su Xing held the jade pendant upon his hand, and with a flash, he entered into the void immortal's abode. The interior of the void immortal's abode itself was empty space, an area of approximately several 100,000 mu. 13, with green hills surrounding green waters, and a dazzling, bejeweled pavilion in the air. A rainbow bridge linked into the clouds and mist, as if chasing it. It was just by staying inside the immortal's abode that Su Xing could then feel his physical strength rapidly recovering. What made Su Xing even more pleasantly surprised was that there was an orchard beside the incredible building. Upon it was a firmament blue tree, 14, and on the tree was hung the pervasive fragrance of flat peaches. Ah, life-extending peaches of immortality. And Suwen saw those peaches and cried out involuntarily. What? Life-extending peaches? Lin Yingmei also felt shocked. You haven't seen wrong, little sister Suwen? Wu Xinjie was shaken. Life-extending peaches. In olden times, they were a spirit fruit that made Liangshan continent mad. Eating one could extend life by 50 years. And although Liangshan continent's star cultivators cultivated star energy that could also extend their lives, a realm could add just 20 years more of longevity. If they encountered some accident like a wug's poison, a curse or so on, then it would be even less. Even if they cultivated to the highest supreme grade supervoid stage, the most they could have would be 180 years of long life vigor. It could be imagined the sort of idea that a life extending 50 years was. It positively is. And Suwen was very certain. Can this flat peach be picked right now? Yan Yizhen asked. And Suwen carefully examined them, then nodded. Su Xing, eat it right now. Sure, Yuan excitedly said. Su Xing smiled. That's foolish. What use is there in me eating it? Ah, can't it increase longevity? Sure, Yuan blinked her eyes, immediately realizing. This is to give those old cultivators to eat. The headmaster of this place is in his declining years. The life-extending peach actually can be used to exchange for many precious and unique materials. Wu Xingjia's eyes released light, as if she had seen a beautiful future. Su Xing took this flat peach into his sack, and just as he stored it, in an instant, that peach tree rapidly wilted. The group stared blankly. Wu Xingjia had originally thought they had picked up a treasure, and she had hoped this peach tree would produce several life-extending peaches. What was this, picking just one fruit, and the entire tree completely withered? They really did not have even a smidgen of luck. Su Xing said, "What a pity." However, this purple star-grade paradise really was not bad. Just the misty spiritual influence of this immortal's abode notwithstanding. The environment, these green mountains and lakes, would make people divide their pleasures, especially with a life-extending flat peach that was counted as an item of value. A heavenly star once every year still has 4 months, and then would begin. At that time, it can be taken for an exchange. Wu Xingjia muttered. Su Xing nodded his head. This kind of thing was good even if he did not have any use for it. If he used it on a fair exchange, there definitely would be a frenzied squabble for it. Su Xing suddenly came up with an idea. Seeing that the Taoist master Xuantian's lifespan was at its sunset, he wondered whether or not this life-extending flat peach could be exchanged for that Taoist master Xuantian's 4 styles school sect protecting treasure. The 4 styles heaven and earth sword? Subsequently, Su Xing again patrolled through his immortal's abode, increasingly satisfied with the purple star-grade immortal's abode the more he looked. This immortal's abode indeed was too defiant of the natural order. It simply was just like a small void Liangshan, with mountains on one side and water on the other, an environment of serene orchards. Other than the reason why the outlaw Liangshan pendant was a requirement for Star Master's immortal abode's tokens, besides abundant spiritual influence and cultivating in the immortal's abode, there was still another big characteristic, that was instant paradise. As long as you held the jade pendant in hand, regardless of location, even if he was a world apart from the abode, he could return to it in a flash. This was equivalent to a life-saving talisman. Imagine that, within a life-and-death battle, just when an impending crisis loomed, suddenly using the jade pendant to escape back into the abode was superior to an escape technique by an unknown number of ranks. With this jade pendant, as long as he did not encounter the abnormality of a swift defeat, Su Xing could come and go to anywhere in Liangshan with ease. Of course, this kind of jade pendant could not possibly be used often. With every usage of instant paradise, the jade pendant would split open a crack, and with 4 cracks, the jade pendant would be damaged, the immortal's abode also disappearing. However, 3 chances inside the star duels meant he had obtained an unexpected advantage. The spiritual influences of the paradise were abundant, and there was also a bamboo forest. And Suwen released the essence-swallowing dragons to cultivate, and there currently were 60 essence-swallowing dragons. As long as they exceeded 100, at that time, they could be of help. Master, we had still better immediately mix your cultivation. See if you can or cannot enter galaxy stage. Yin Yizhen reminded him at this time. Su Xing was also in agreement. Restraining his excitement, he entered impeccable moral integrity. The girls were left outside the exquisitely made pavilion in the air. Only Wu Xingjia followed to enact a protective magic for Su Xing. 2. Sitting down cross-legged, Su Xing entered a meditative state. A star cultivator's cultivation advancement was one quantitative change, turning into another quantitative change. Every change to a promotion was a difficult threshold, and besides requiring star energy to meet some extent, mental state was also a factor. In the slowness, Su Xing then felt his mind outside his body, and his organs, tissues and nerves were seemingly transparent. His star energy condensed clouds that were thickly crammed into his body, an abundance that was hard to imagine. If it was anyone else, they certainly would be in for a surprise. An unprecedented dense magic energy like Su Xing's at the peak of Nebula late stage greatly disrespected galaxy cultivators. This was no wonder, for Su Xing had signed 5-star generals, and among them, 2 were top-notch heavenly stars above the rank of 10. Their star energies were matchlessly robust, Changing it into his body naturally was something ordinary people could not compare to. Thus, accumulating over time like this, his star energy would but frighten people to death. However, this way also had shortcoming. Because he had star energy for 5 people, this signified the star energy Su Xing distributed to the star generals would be increasingly dispersed. Outside of resonance, what they received even was not enough for one person. This was an inevitable outcome of contracting multiple star generals. And another important weakness, then, was that it was heavily difficult for Su Xing to advance to the next realm. Nebula stage advancement to galaxy stage required that the cultivator transfer the magic energy in their body, and circulating the nebula magic energy over his whole body for several thousand days, until the clouds and mist turned to threads, the threads into fine rain, and the fine rain mass into a river. 3. At that time, his star energy would become like blood, circulating throughout the cultivator's entire body until it genuinely reached the mixture realm. Clouds and mist turned to threads, the threads into fine rain, and the fine rain mass into a river. Each of these 3 steps could not afford a mistake. Su Xing first of all used the absolute sincerity soul technique to have himself recover to his most profound and calm state of mind, and then he used the secret technique of the purple star transforming chi to harmonize the star energy in his body. This made the cloud-shaped magic energy begin to circulate across his whole body. It was excessively tremendous, to the extent that its circulation speed was exceptionally slow, seemingly blocked up by something insufferably difficult to bear. His forehead overflowed with fine beads of sweat. Wu Xinjie took out a handkerchief to lightly wipe them away, her heart secretly praying. How could she ever know the challenge Su Xing currently faced? From the outside, his internals always needed maximum investment. Just the so-called 1 minute of applause on the stage, and 10 years of endurance off the stage. Su Xing's lips slightly spread, and Wu Xinjie tacitly understood she was to administer to Su Xing the pills that were prepared beforehand to act as supplements. His suffering expression somewhat improved. Wu Xinjie frowned, gazing at Su Xing just like this, not daring to take her gaze away for the slightest bit. This gaze remained for an entire 20 hours. Su Xing collapsed. He opened his eyes, his whole body already soaked in cold sweat. Did you fail? Wu Xinjie said. Su Xing was depressed. The 20 hours of tremendous nebula star energy in his body was actually too deeply entrenched, as if a boulder was blocking it up. Su Xing already used his greatest strength to go move it, but it still was slow as before. In accordance with this speed, he would need at the minimum several months without stopping for sleep or rest in order to only perhaps see and reach his nebula turn into threads, which truly depressed Su Xing to death. This is the price. Wu Xinjie stuck out her cute tongue. We had better think of some other methods. Su Xing said. Go ask little sister Suan. She is the divine physician, so she should have some methods that can create a few pills to get through the bottleneck. Wu Xinjie said. 4 cultivations above nebula stage, star cultivators have then entered a different realm. The value of this cultivation bottleneck breakthrough pill was extremely expensive. When Su Xing cultivated just now, he had ingested 10 scattered river pills, and each was a good medicine for the bottleneck of promoting nebula to galaxy. The value of one was above 5 million liang of gold. Certainly, even if this type of pill did not have any results, they could only inquire the efficacious star to again make a plan. And Suan at this time was sitting on a stone platform in the bamboo grove inside the immortal's abode. Close to more than 60 essence-swallowing dragons currently moved about cheerfully and lightheartedly. A great number of green lights, just like sprites as they decorated the surroundings. The girl rested her chin on both hands, lost in thought. Little sister Suan, what sort of heat are you in? A charming phrase broke in Suan's blank stare. Sister Xinjie. And Suan's face carried a slight smile. Suan is worried brother perhaps has great difficulty rushing into galaxy. Right, that attack has failed. Wu Xinjie helplessly said. We just happen to want to ask little sister Suan for your ideas. See if there is some solution. She summarized the situation when she mentioned whether or not Suan could manufacture for Su Xing a custom-made breakthrough pill. and Suwon's face suddenly flushed slightly red, and put forward that she needed to administer it to Su Xing alone to see. On this point, Wu Xinjie did not have any opinions. Immortal's abode pavilion. The bedroom. Su Xing currently shut his eyes in contemplation, and Suwon carefully and solemnly stepped forward, afraid of disturbing him. As early as when Suwon stepped into the pavilion, Su Xing had already known. He opened his eyes, somewhat embarrassed as he said, "Little sis Suwon, I fear I must trouble you. This is something little sister should do." And Suwon's eyes were watery, blinking. Little sister only needs to trouble big brother for a bit. Sure. What do I need to do? Su Xing asked. And Suwon lightly bit her teeth. And little sister must ask for big brother to take off all his clothes. Ah. Su Xing's mouth hung open. Strip off all my clothes? If he was not confident that Suwon was pure and honest, a steady girl, he definitely would have wanted to indulge in fantasy. And Suwon explained. Because Suwon wants to know the amount of presence Big Brother's star energy has in the whole body when exerted, as well as a few characteristics, in order to prescribe the right medicine for the right illness. 5. Su Xing nodded. Without any hesitation he stripped naked. He had thick skin, and he had experience being stark naked in front of nurses, when he previously had physical examinations, anyways. Although physicians had virtue, this was the first time Suwon had seen a man's naked body, and her face was immediately red up to the ears. Big brother, please lay face up on the bed, she softly said. Su Xing lay down according to her instructions, and Suwon then had Su Xing begin harmonizing the star energy in his body. Seeing Su Xing already busy, Suwon lightly exhaled. Her white fingers wiped past her eyes, and she saw clearly. Suwon walked over, her two hands pressing against both ends of Su Xing's neck. When her palms stuck on, the warmth from the girl's hands made Su Xing feel somewhat different. Suwon's palms stuck to Su Xing's skin, both left and right hands gently and slowly stroking. Through the fiery temperature of his skin, the girl sensed the agitation of the star energy within. Big brother, no random thoughts. Suwon softly said. Su Xing raised the absolute sincerity soul technique, making his star energy wander throughout his whole body. It was just that this method of Suwon's to check star energy actually was too unnerving. The girl's slender hands were like a caress, and her arms too. Certainly, when they caressed his stomach, that penetrating affection's continuous stroking forced all of Su Xing's blood seemingly drop a bit. Suwon's charming face was embellished with red clouds. She was also afraid of harming Big Brother, her movements graceful and tender, the temperature as their skin mutually rubbed growing warmer and warmer. This was the first time Suwon had comforted a man's entire body, and the target, as it happened, was the man she liked. Suwon did her best to bear her restless heartbeat, and after her hands stroked past his waist, that sky-supporting pillar of Su Xing's was revealed in Suwon's eyes. 6. Big Brother. The girl tenderly cried out, somewhat rebuking him, hurriedly turning her gaze back. Could your hands be a bit firmer? Su Xing was helpless, and Suwon's hands actually were too tender, making his lower half nearly explode. Even if he suppressed it with the absolute sincerity soul technique, its head would rise within Suwon's slightest movement. The divine physician was the divine physician. Every soft movement, as it turned out, induced Su Xing's hormones. How can this be firm? Suwon's hands lightly slid past the inside of Su Xing's thighs, the flowing black hair. She strived her hardest to not look out of the corner of her eye at that fearful and imposing spear. Big brother, your yang qi is too vigorous. This will affect the circulation of magic energy. 7. Suwon bit her lip, softly speaking. How about you let me first settle this alone for a bit? 6. Suwon's face flushed red like a completely ripe tomato at Su Xing's frank words. No need. This kind of interruption would affect you even more. Suwon inwardly breathed deeply. The efficacious star said to herself, a physician is like a parent. Clenching her teeth and steeling herself, both hands grabbed that sky-raising pillar that made her feel ashamed. 6. Ah! A boiling heat made Suwon's body nearly go limp. Su Xing moaned. Suwon. Big brother, don't move. Suwon's gaze looked at Su Xing, an expression both frowning and in enjoyment. Her slender white fingers then began to move, and the girl's breathing muffled. Her body was also boiling, both legs restlessly twisting. Oh! Su Xing only felt his entire body explode, a kind of indescribable ecstasy cramming the cells of his entire body. Fortunately, his willpower was sufficiently firm, and he knew what the present situation was. Big brother, use your forces. And Suwen clamped her legs, promptly crying out. Su Xing raised his star energy, entering a blissful seventh heaven of a place. Oh dear! Not wearing one thread, Suwen gently took hold of the Shao. 10-2 passions mutually fulfilled. The splash was like the blooming of flowers. And by the way, since so many people are wondering, no, and Suwen did not have intercourse with Su Xing. She only gave him a hand, so to speak, and that was enough to pleasure her. A copper man puppet half knelt where it was, its entire body left with countless battle dents. The thief star Shi Yuan was just like an engineering designer, on hand holding the MO attack mechanism records, while looking over everywhere on this puppet. Yuaner, has the copper man puppet been prepared to advance ranks? Wu Xinjie walked over. The knowledge star found that she really was miserable enough. And Suwen could help Su Xing refine pills. Lining Mei and Yin Yizhen currently practice spear techniques and boxing to exercise to the next realm, and even Shi Yuan found work promoting the puppet. In the end, the ranked third knowledge star was the one most idle with her time. Although she had plans, it was just that they were currently useless. Sister Xinjie, how is young Master Su Xing? Shi Yuan turned her head and asked. Promotion is somewhat difficult, but Suwen should have a solution. Wu Xinjie said. Shi Yuan nodded her head, still very much confident in Su Xing. When he comes out, this young lady will give him a nice surprise. You all can help young lord resolve his difficulties and leave his worries behind. Pretty good indeed. Wu Xinjie smiled. Shi Yuan heard the knowledge star's tone was slightly dejected. Having learned from Su Xing, she patted Wu Xinjie's shoulder. Sister Xinjie, you are actually the one that can most help young lord resolve his difficulties. What the thief star said was not mere consolation. That time with the supercluster cultivator on Grindstone Mountain, and that time with the crying infant in the void Liangshan. Both were incidents where Wu Xinjie made her name. Otherwise, whether or not they could have passed through smoothly was an unknown. Even Sister Ingmei admires you very much. Wu Xinjie smiled. But you all have something to do. Me wasting time like this is not a solution. The danger of the future purple star grade birth outline is an unknown. And we need to bind around with silk before it rains. The knowledge star muttered, pensive. This kind of troublesome thing will be turned over to Sister Xinjie anyways. Shi Yuan laughed. Wu Xinjie rolled her eyes. I'm preparing to refine this copper man puppet to galaxy stage. Sister Xinjie, do you see any more gaps? Shi Yuan outlined her procedure to refine the puppet. This copper man puppet itself was equivalent to nebula stage, but going through this many battles, it was on the verge of collapse. The soul driving the copper man puppet also had reached ruination phase. In the days after, it would not have much use in Su Xing's battles. And Shi Yuan already had a 5th rank soul and 2 6th rank souls with her that completely could be exchanged for one. The magic circle here can be changed. Some relic blade sand can be poured in. If it's over here. Wu Xinjie pointed out a few places that could be improved. Shi Yuan benefited from the advice. And then she began to apply the operation. Seeing Shi Yuan was going to refine the 5th rank puppet soul, Lining Mei and Yin Yizhen stopped their drills and gathered to the side. They saw Shi Yuan first open a large array. Sisters, I'll need to trouble you. Shi Yuan giggled. They nodded, each taking one of the 4 directions. Subsequently, 4-star weapon refinement great arrays appeared, and the copper man puppet's position overlapped with the 4 arrays. Shi Yuan then mobilized Starfire to burn. The copper man puppet very quickly became a lump of thick, molten copper under the Starfire. Shi Yuan at this time followed the MO attack mechanism record's so-called figure exchange 2 procedure, and condensed the molten copper into an enormous copper ball. Under Shi Yuan's control, every kind of material then flew into the copper ball and was enveloped. With her divine intent, the copper ball began to expand and lengthen, little by little. Go! Shi Yuan read, grabbing a puppet banner. The 5th-rank ancient demon beast Cyclops Jin's enormous soul, then scuttled in from the banner. Once the soul entered, the floating molten copper immediately released a splitting noise, and then a manufactured mechanical beast's body slowly took shape. Around 2 hours later, a 3 zhang tall, entirely clad in black armor Cyclops Jin mechanical beast, that was like a small mountain appeared before the girls. The process to manufacture a puppet beast was far from over. Afterwards, Shi Yuan then finished little by little the final touches of work. Wu Xinjie and the other 2 fell back to the side. How has young master still not have emerged? Lin Yingmei glanced at the building in the clouds, suspiciously asking Wu Xinjie. Wu Xinjie shook her head, for she also was unclear. Just as they thought about this, the door opened. Su Xing and Suwen then walked out one after the other. Su Xing seemed to be glowing, his vigor shaking. Shi Yuan, have you finished making it? Seeing that huge mechanical beast the moment he walked out, Su Xing was surprised. Until before the purple star birth outline begins, this young lady will also control the 2 other souls. Shi Yuan controlled her divine intent while speaking, pleased with herself. Su Xing encouraged Suwen, and then they walked down the rainbow bridge together, facing the deeply concerned expressions of 3 sisters. And Suwen's cheeks were red as she replied. Suwen already knows about the bottleneck of Big Brother's star energy. Within a month, Suwen can create something. That is for the best. Wu Xinjie sighed in relief. How sharp was she? Being able to see Su Xing's and in Suwen's eyes had a trace of guilt as she made fun of them. Young lord, you and little sister Suwen were in the bedroom for this long. Yingmei was even worried that young lord ate little sister Suwen. Suwen is my little sister, how could I eat her? 3 Su Xing said in deadly earnest. And Suwen bashfully blushed in shame, burying her head, continuously nodding in agreement with Su Xing's words. Wu Xinjie had wanted to continue poking fun, when suddenly, at this time, Su Xing's brows twisted. They saw the jade pendant trembled, and a figure appeared in the ocean of consciousness that approached the area. The Void Immortal's abode could stand guard of the surrounding 10 li. In the case someone approached, it would immediately give Su Xing a warning. Su Xing and the rest then left the Immortal's abode, finding the outside was already very late at night. Turning his head around to look at the position of the Void Immortal's abode, the atmosphere had a faint ripple diffusing, visible to the naked eye. However, the Void Immortal's abode had a powerful forbid dance protecting it. If it was not a strong ability user or a specially practiced cultivation method, they still would not be able to perceive that this immortal's abode was present. Su Xing held the jade pendant, carving the divine intents of Lin Yingmei, Wu Xinjie, and Suwen, Shi Yuan and Yin Yizhen onto the jade pendant. With this, the 5 beautiful maidens could enter and exit the Void Immortal's abode any time they wished. It seems that Tang Lianxin is coming here. Su Xing's divine intent sensed the approaching person. He turned his head to the beautiful girls. You all can cultivate inside the immortal's abode then. That perverted martial Aunt Yueka insists on making me return every night to sleep. Master, do you not need slave servant to protect you? Yin Yizhen said. No need. This is the center of the 4 styles school. I won't encounter any dangers here. You all should have your own things to do. Su Xing shook his head. His body techniques shifted, and he fled into the dark night. The beautiful girls' ineffectual faces looked at each other. Big Brother's words are not wrong. In any case, Big Brother is learning tool refinement, so there is nothing we can help with. And Suwen said, this place is the sex center, so we probably will not run into anything dangerous. Wu Xinjie nodded. The group turned and entered the ripple. Before Lin Yingmei entered, she turned her head to stare into the deep and dark night. Only then did she enter into the immortal's abode. Su Xing very quickly bumped into Tang Lianxin. The 4 styles sect has established rules. From now on, do not be too late. Tang Lianxin icily said. Turning around, he then left, actually very blunt. Returning to the bamboo house, he saw Tang Lianxin already on the bed, wrapped in the blanket, sealing himself in very tightly. Su Xing yawned, for he actually was very tired. After undoing his clothes, he got on the bed. which made Tang Lianxin tighten the blankets even more. This made Su Xing feel speechless, feeling as though he had infringed upon Lianxin. 5 Very early the second day. Su Xing rose, then thumbed through that thick tool refinement outline, engrossed as he read. Because he was waiting for Zhu Yueka to return, Su Xing did not directly return to the Void Immortal's abode. Tang Lianxin was in the courtyard, still practicing his 1 blue and 1 red fantastic flames. I heard Master say it has only been 2 years since you came here? Su Xing could not resist asking. Why would you want to come to the Four Styles sect? According to what he knew, because of the Four Styles school's environment and blockade, it did not receive favor. It was very rare for people to take the initiative to enter the Four Styles school. Tang Lianxin was briefly silent. Slowly he said, I was previously at a small tool refinement gang. It was eventually wiped out, so that is why I am here. It sounded as if their period of sadness had passed, however, seeing that his expression was very hard. It did not have any amount of sorrow upon it. I heard you are an apprentice received by an elder heaven clinging divine fire of the Four Styles school? Tang Lianxin stopped practicing. But he has met with a mishap. And has he taught you anything? Besides simple school entrance soul techniques, there is nothing else. Tang Lianxin kept silent. Su Xing very quickly finished reading several tool refinement books. And not long after, Zhu Yueka also arrived at Mirror's flower stream upon a riding sword. She did not teach any soul techniques, but said Su Xing's sect robes were complete, and made Tang Lianxin accompany him to retrieve them. She also intentionally told Tang Lianxin to take Su Xing around to acquaint himself with the entire flaming eastern island, to understand the sect he was part of. However, no matter how Su Xing looked at it, Zhu Yueka was thinking of making Tang Lianxin drop that bad antisocial temper. Tang Lianxin nodded, releasing a war chariot. The chariot was on wind wheels, 6 spinning up clouds of dust. The front of the chariot was engraved with the 2 words, Fire Beacon, making Su Xing startled. This unexpectedly was an astral tool, and it was a rarely seen flight astral tool. Where did this come from? Su Xing said. Tang Lianxin turned his head away, intent on not replying. Su Xing shrugged his shoulders, stepping onto this war chariot embarrassed. The fire beacon chariot's wind wheels turned, then departed Mirror's flower stream in a flash. It was unknown how much faster this speed was compared to the wind-swayed rafts. The fire beacon chariot very quickly arrived at the beautiful pavilion, and inside, after he finished fitting his robes, they then went to the sword storage pavilion to obtain a sect flying sword. Although they already were a declining large sect, that complex procedure was still maintained. At the sword storage pavilion, they just happened to encounter a group of cultivators that wanted to exchange flying swords. Seeing Su Xing, the newly arrived Nebula late stage, they knew he was Martial Ant Yueka's apprentice. That group of cultivators contained an inevitable sense of jealousy. In the Four Styles school, to be able to study under Zhu Yueka was the greatest honor. Little sister Lianxin, long time no see. Have you finally agreed to come out from Mirror's flower stream? A burst of ridiculing laughter. The one who spoke was a very dark-skinned and tall man. He once was selected by Zhu Yueka to be a disciple, but he did not stay for even 2 months before he was expelled. Clamoring with ridicule, at that time, the one who expelled him was none other than Tang Lianxin. Little sister Lianxin? Su Xing frowned and turned his head, looking at Tang Lianxin's indifference. Little sister Lianxin is still so cold. You even forced Martial Ant Yueka to find a partner for you. The man roared with laughter, as did the other cultivators. Tang Lianxin had come to the sect for only 2 years, and because of his outstanding talent and esteem, it was just like he had been looked upon as the core of the Four Styles school's future. Regarding these disciples that had stayed at the sect for more than 10 years, naturally they were brimming with indignation and jealousy. However, they were still of the same school, so they only dared to talk. To commit an offense against Master Ant Yueka, there was no recovering from that. To see with their own eyes people escape from this predicament, how could they not seize the chance to knowingly smile? A coward as expected. How embarrassing. Seeing Tang Lianxin's face was expressionless, the man disdainfully curled his lips. Inviting a snub, In an instant, cold wind poured into his ear. The man had not yet come back to his senses when a flying sword immediately shot to and touched his forehead. His legs immediately went limp. Yeah, right. As expected, only sissies would rely on insulting others to promote their own superiority. Su Xing's flying sword really was too quick. Everyone did not return to their senses. They only saw the dark-faced man scream. Su Xing simply did not have the intent to kill him. The dark-faced man was white from looking at the flying sword next to his brow, but he was also Nebula late stage. Naturally, he certainly would not fear Su Xing, and he defiantly smiled. What is that? A man named Lianxin. If this is not girly, then what is it? Your brain is not broken, is it? What are you called? Su Xing coldly asked. This one beneath you is Zhou Bao. The man said proudly. Oh, could it because you are called Zhou Bao? Are you a beast then? Su Xing sneered. Uft. The stiff-faced to the extreme Tang Lianxin heard Su Xing's words and could not help smile. That smile truly had the same motions as a beautiful woman's, and Su Xing's heart said this was abnormal. 3. This Tang Lianxin's smile truly was somewhat flirtatious, so it was no wonder that this bunch of men were jealous. Honestly speaking, at this moment, even Su Xing felt that he was a woman. Su Xing was frightened by his own heart's thinking, so he hastily calmed his mind. Zhou Bao was rendered speechless by Su Xing's words, unsightly as he held back. At this time, a fire cloud peak disciple that was with him was resentful. You quickly lower your sword. Do not think you can do as you please just because you are under Ju Yueka's school. Any way you put it, we are your senior brothers. Quickly lower your flying sword and apologize. All the disciples were Nebula stage, and they relied on their own numbers being greater, also hooting insults at Su Xing as a newcomer. I will never apologize. Su Xing spat. Zhou Bao seized the chance to curse. Brothers, this guy does not pay respects to his elder brothers. Scared stiff by he alone, how could Fire Cloud Peak ever face anyone after this? Fire Cloud Peak's disciples were angry, immediately striking seals. Su Xing snorted. Seeing that several dozen glittering flying swords on the sword storage pavilion, he made a hook with his finger, and the flying swords hung upon the wall lazily shot out, as if there was some spiritual influence. The dozen immediately flew towards those disciples. These Fire Cloud Peaks nearly fainted from fright when they saw this. One person controlled several tens of flying swords, yet it was not a powerful sword art. This divine intent was extraordinary. Su Xing's right hand turned, and the backs of the dozen flying swords snapped like a whip at them. The Fire Cloud Peak disciples ran away in a flurry, continuously making pitiful noises. A few disciples wanted to use flying swords, but their divine intents simply were too late as they had been whipped silly. Consequently, an odd play was exhibited outside the sword storage pavilion. Su Xing controlled swords with both hands, the several dozen flying swords dancing wildly without stopping, making these disciples cut sorry figures as they endlessly fled like rats. At this time, the disciples of the other peaks heard the commotion at the sword storage pavilion and crowded around. Seeing Su Xing alone teaching a lesson to 7, 8 cultivators about the same cultivation as him, they were nearly astonished to death. When did the 4 styles sect some out with such an immensely powerful nebula cultivator? Daring to humiliate my Fire Cloud Peak disciples, you are courting death. From the side came quite a delicate cold shout. A burning hot fire broke the air. Su Xing waved his hand, and the dozen flying swords immediately uniformly formed a sword shield that blocked in front of him. Since it was not a sword art, this seemingly gorgeous sword shield was easily broken. The dozen flying swords were jolted all over the place. Using his current divine intent to form this type of sword array was too difficult. The sword shield broke, turning into a pile of scrap iron that completely lacked spiritual powers. However, it also helped Su Xing successfully arrive under this sneak attack. Then, a second whip practically did not stop as it whizzed through the air, the burning noise ear-piercing like a dragon's cry. This whip entirely swept away the leftover flying swords, imposing and overwhelmingly fierce. The one who appeared was a young girl with her black hair in a cloud bun, wearing red soft armor and a red hat. Her figure was slim, exceedingly beautiful, She actually was a beauty, but the angry glare of that pair of eyes more or less destroyed her beauty. You outrageously mad apprentice. Unexpectedly humiliating the Fire Cloud Peak's disciples die. The young girl was an irascible master. Her hand held a crimson long whip, and the whip's whistle broke the air as it swung towards Su Xing. Su Xing tilted his head, evading this strike, and then he leaned forward and rushed. The young girl's phoenix shoes retreated, the long whip continuously cracking. Recalling it back, the whip immediately formed a defensive appearance, the whip making a whooshing sound. Raging flames burned, appearing like a dragon swimming around the girl's entire body. She wanted to keep Su Xing outside of 3 chi of herself, meaning her martial arts actually were pretty good. Su Xing availed himself to take a step backwards. The girl sneered, her pupils flashing a cold light. Her wrists flipped, and the whip that was making a defensive position ducked to the side, suddenly exerting power as it bit straight at him. The speed was quick, passing in a flash. Crack! A crisp sound in the air. The whip flogged onto Su Xing. The young woman grinned, but she discovered afterward that was nothing more than a false image. Not good. The young woman suddenly felt a cold wind pour into her ear. She stepped backwards continuously, wanting to retrieve the whip, but Su Xing was even faster by a step. One hand grabbed the girl's slender hands and crossing them, he pinned both of the girl's hands behind her back. Su Xing did not feel gentle towards her, his strength actually very heavy. The young lady was in unbearable pain, the whip falling from her hands. With this, Su Xing had completed locking the girl's arms behind her. The young woman had been fixed into a position that stuck out her alluring chest. Her chest is actually rather impressive. Su Xing was behind her, and looking down from above, he thought this. He did not show mercy when he used the hand capture method he learned from the army. Your toying around is paining this young lady, scoundrel. The young girl's tears were about to fall. Quickly release milady. Damn you. Quickly release her new guy. Otherwise we will never be finished with you. The Fire Cloud Peak disciples originally had looked forward to the girl, helping them spew their foul air. How could they have guessed that in the blink of an eye, the girl would be contrarily restrained, and her posture made very sensual. The eyes of the disciples watching burned with rage. It hurts. The girl cried. The Fire Cloud Peak disciples promptly halted their attack. Su Xing disdainfully looked at them. His hand moved and picked up that whip. It was made from dragon tendon, its flames clear and crystal, bold and fierce and very tough. It surprisingly was a nebula magic weapon, made from an ancient lost treasure. Su Xing's heart secretly said, "Fuck, this 4-style school deserves to be called the Ancient 9 Dragons Tool Refinement Great School." Whichever of the two he looked at, the Fire Beacon Chariot and this fire whip were both at the peak. More disciples gathered around, and they were dumbstruck looking at this scene. The girl increasingly had the mind to slice and dice the man behind her. She cursed a few times behind her, making Su Xing somewhat increase his strength. The girl knew this would hurt, at once pitifully and endearingly saying, "Quickly release me. Do you know who my father is? Your father could be Li Gang, 5, and it would not matter to me." Su Xing disapproved. "What bothers me most is those kinds of high and mighty people like yourself." "Bastard," the girl cursed. "This junior brother. For the time being, let go of Miss Hongxue. 6, then we can speak." A disciple wearing the Water Moon Peak's robes said, "You're a man. How can you treat a woman like this? Is he still a man? If you're a man, then you will release Miss Hongxue." The Fire Cloud Peak disciples immediately agreed upon hearing this, but the disciples of the other peaks actually spoke less. They had an appearance of watching a major drama, especially those male cultivators, staring with fixed eyes at the girl's loftily raised breasts. Indeed, they wished Su Xing would not let go. If he could unfasten the buttons before their eyes, that would be even better. What should I care whether or not she is a woman? She isn't my woman anyways. Su Xing sneered. She had tried to kill him, so yielding would be stupid. "Humph. So it turns out that Tang Lianxin is your woman. No wonder you would act out." Zhou Bao's sarcastic sickness could not help but flare up. Su Xing's wrist moved. The whip whizzed and a rainbow light broke. Zhou Bao screamed as he covered his face, falling and rolling about where he stood. The male cultivators that were still admiring the girl's chest each drew in a cold breath, trembling in fear. The junior brother before them was very tyrannical. Apologize, or I will take you back to instruct you on how you should apologize. Su Xing spat. You hoodlum. The young girl went limp. Hurry. This young lady could die. Ah, it really hurts. Woo, sorry you bastard. The young girl's eyes were moist. Say it more clearly. Su Xing said impatiently. Sorry you bastard. Are you cursing me? Or are you apologizing? Sorry. The girl sobbed spasmodically. Bastard, forget it. Looking at her appearance, Su Xing no longer wanted to make things difficult for her. Afterwards, he raised his chin in indication towards those rebellious Fire Cloud Peak disciples. How could these disciples not understand Su Xing's meaning? To take the miss in their arms, they did not dare approach haphazardly. Moreover, they could not handle the newcomer junior brother before them that was a newborn calf unafraid of the lion. So they could only apologize. The Fire Cloud Peak today has offended you too. We should not have insulted junior brother Tang Lianxin. The disciples of the other 3 styles peaks wanted to laugh when they saw this. When the tyrannical Fire Cloud Peak of the 4 styles school unexpectedly was this choked with resentment, their hearts said the apprentice that Master Uncle Qingshan received was extraordinary. Tang Lianxin continuously stared at Su Xing, which made Su Xing scared from the bottom of his heart, afraid that Tang Lianxin had homosexual tendencies. Until the Fire Cloud Peak loudly apologized. Only then did Tang Lianxin turn away, not uttering a word. With an expression like a boulder, he took out the fire beacon chariot. Women should be more gentle. Su Xing whispered in her ear, loosening his hand. Without the slightest hesitation, the girl turned around and kicked. Her beautiful foot was grabbed by Su Xing's hand, without the least bit of concern for her. Hoodlum, let go of this young lady. The young girl shouted, red in the face. Su Xing pushed, and the girl staggered, falling flat on her rear where she was. Return this young lady's fire dragon whip. 7. The young girl shouted. Su Xing certainly was not stupid enough to give her something to fight him with. Have that father of yours take it, he said as he boarded the fire beacon chariot, not looking at her at all as he departed. You're a bastard. This young lady, Ruan Hongxue, 8 must thrice announce today's disgrace. The girl shouted. If you do not have the strength, then do not talk so big. From the sky came a disdainful reply, and a very red whip fell down. It was precisely that fire dragon whip. Ruan Hongxue blankly grabbed it in her hands, and the several dozen spectating disciples of the other 3 school immediately spun on their heels, escape lights departing, wielding a nebula magic weapon, and rampaging in the 4 styles school without fear. No one wished to become the target that received Ruan Hongxue's attacks. Mississippi. A Fire Cloud Peak disciple's face was full of resentment. That newcomer is too arrogant. Taking up Master Aunt Yueka's support, unexpectedly, he taunted our Fire Cloud Peak in this way. Miss will definitely make us spew our guts. 9. Zhoubao covered his thoroughly red face lamenting. Idiot. Ruan Hongxue raised her cracking whip, swinging it down. The group had been whipped into a panic, scattering and sneaking away like rats. Useless things, this many people could not best one. You have made this young lady lose face. Bastard, you all should die. While she whipped, the girl's eyes burned with a flame, shining with a face completely reflecting a proud, that man is damnable expression. No man had ever dared to make her lose face within the sect. You bastard. Why did you do it like this? On the fire beacon chariot, Tang Lianxin asked. Other people said you were a sissy, and you are actually slightly effeminate. Su Xing creased his brow. Was the Tang Lianxin in front of him a man or not? Even if he had been scolded by a mad dog, there should have been no need to scold back in turn. But whichever way this man was looked at, he had an appearance of indignation. He was at a loss. Tang Lianxin did not mind these kinds of words, but he looked at Su Xing puzzled. He repeated his question. There was no need for you to go provoke those annoyances for me. We do not have any sort of friendship. Su Xing slumped. This Tang Lianxin indeed was incredibly antisocial. He slightly understood why Zhu Yueka so bitterly wanted to change his temper. Master already said we are brothers that are to share our fortunes and misfortunes. Don't give me that sort of icy manner. In any case, we are comrades in arms. You may feel indifferent, but I feel that this is important. Su Xing patted his shoulder, for this was his customary action to show closeness. Tang Lianxin's expression oddly looked at the hand on his shoulder, but he did not say anything more. Then, Tang Lianxin again brought Su Xing around flaming Eastern Island. Reticence and silence were his personality, and there were many places that even he did not know. So in the end, he still came across Protector Yang Yinyu. Only when this open female cultivator acted as a tour guide were things not awkward. The fire beacon chariot arrived at a cape of flaming Eastern Island. Yang Yinyu said, "Ghost Chopping Cape, the Four Styles School's most important place." Ghost Chopping Cape? Su Xing felt this name was very strange. Following Yang Yinyu's explanation pointing at the sea, Su Xing then understood. Beyond Ghost Chopping Cape's 10,000 li of sea area was the Falling Cherry Ghost Kingdom. The Falling Cherry Ghost Kingdom was the kingdom of a demonic cult that produced in abundance a kind of devil mask and body techniques that monstrous cultivators were fond of wearing. Thirsting for a kill, they were known as Ghost Martial Cultivators, and they were loathed by the Azure Dragon Territory's cultivators. Frequently, there would be Ghost Martial Cultivators that sneaked into the Azure Dragon Territory to commit massacres. And usually, when Star Cultivators found out, there often were villages littered with corpses and rivers running with blood. Consequently, Ghost Martial Cultivators were called demons among demons, devils that each and every one of the Azure Dragon Territory's cultivators killed. Thus, did the Ghost Chopping Cape receive this name. Again navigating around the villages of flaming Eastern Island, this place's climate was a considerably torrid heat. The earthly fires were too many and ill-suited for wheat and crops. The foodstuffs inside the villages were mostly supplied by the Four Styles School, and the villagers planted large tracts of scarlet monkey fruit, and other such spirit fruits to act as remuneration. Su Xing sighed. After bidding farewell to Yang Yinyu, Su Xing and Tang Lianxin then returned to the sect. Just at this time, several escape lights fell before them. Su Xing looked, and the Tsundere 3 girl he previously chided them to was sure enough not resigned, having called for rescue troops. Master Brother Jiao, he is the one who bullied little sister. Wan Hongxue pointed at Su Xing, her expression itching to destroy him. Su Xing stared, and the girl again very fearfully retreated. This time, Wan Hongxue brought more than 20 Fire Cloud Peak disciples with cultivations that were not low in a show of force. Among them was one whose face was smart and bright, with red lips and white teeth. He was an elegant man of approximately 27 or 28 years that made Su Xing feel concern. His forehead was full, his essence qi deep and resounding, divine intent surging. Although he was only galaxy early stage, it seemed he had practiced secret techniques and such. From Yang Yinyu, Su Xing understood what was up with this Tsundere girl. Wan Hongxue, the daughter of Fire Cloud Peak's first seat, Wan Hongda. 5 running amok in the Four Styles School with a nebula magic weapon, the Fire Dragon Whip. Every disciple did not dare provoke her. So this man should be the Fire Cloud Peak's chief elder disciple Jiao Shu. 6 known as one of the Four Styles School's 4 great disciples. His sword arts were very exceptional. You really are spoiled. 7 Su Xing coldly looked at her. Master Brother Jiao, see how very rampant he is. He insulted little sister like this. Wan Hongxue said. Jiao Shu was very mild, his lips forming a hook. In an instant, a powerful divine intent immediately spilled over. He used his divine intent to probe Su Xing, who inwardly sneered. He had practiced the 1,000 Machine Gang's great spread divine art, and had 5-star generals at his side. Comparing divine sense, he had not yet felt fear, and he released his divine intent. The 2 formless things were practically visible to the naked eye. In the space between them where no one was at, an impact exploded. A fierce astral wind immediately gusted, scattering in every direction. The atmosphere and air suddenly was violent, and the Fire Cloud Peak disciples on riding swords were endlessly blown over. The Tang Lianxin in the fire beacon chariot was actually nonchalant. This astral tool certainly was not something these divine intents could ravage. Tang Lianxin still was that aloof as he stood to the side, spectating, an appearance that did not want to pay attention. Seeing this situation, everyone was shocked, promptly releasing star energy for protection. Explosions rang out continuously, and layers of strong winds formed a slipstream, suddenly sucking the two into the middle. The two people's silhouettes were instantly indistinct. High in the air, as if there was no form, the two were motionless shadows. Wan Hongxue was shocked to the extreme, not expecting the Nebula late-stage bastard before her to surprisingly be able to contend against Master Brother. She knew that Senior Brother Jiao fortunately obtained a kind of divine sense refinement secret art, regarded as higher than the rest of the disciples in the entire Four Styles school. Jiao Shu's expression slightly changed, the robes on his body uplifted. The firelight was fierce, only seeing divine intent become fire, an ignition. Su Xing was unconcerned, slowly increasing his own divine intent. His divine sense was like a vast lake shrouded in mist, covering Jiao Shu. The flames immediately died out, and Jiao Shu could only raise an artifact to protect himself, otherwise, he would probably be knocked down by Su Xing's divine intent. He looked at Su Xing with an expression of unabashed shock. The Fire Cloud Peak disciples thought that when they saw their great senior brother suddenly release his artifact, that he was about to act. Immediately, every kind of sword and polearm clattered. Carvings and paintings were thrown out, rays of light leaking everywhere, imposing and scathing. Jiao Shu was too late to stop this. Su Xing also did not anticipate these fire cloud peaks to unexpectedly loot a burning house. They belonged to the same school, and acting without the slightest hesitation, his heart was furious. Su Xing wanted to use the blooming water divine thunder to teach them a lesson. At this time, Tang Lianxin was also finally displeased. He lazily tossed his hand, and a scroll was thrown into the air. That scroll hung in the air. Suddenly, both sides unraveled, then shot out a white mist. This mist wrapped and completely assimilated the artifacts of various ranks that were thrown over into itself. Then, the scroll rolled up and fell into Tang Lianxin's hand. Everyone was dumbstruck. Astral tool. Ah, it's an astral tool. Weapon removal scroll. 9 Jiao Shu was shocked. Su Xing was also astonished. His heart said this Tang Lianxin truly was incredible. He seemed antisocial and harmless, so he did not think that he unexpectedly would even have an astral tool. In addition, this astral tool seemed to be very powerful. More than a dozen artifacts were sucked into it nearly without resistance. However amazing it was, Su Xing still was annoyed by these sneak-attacking disciples. This young lady certainly did not sneak-attack you. Wan Hongshua's heart was shadowy, promptly putting things to order. Impudent. Jiao Shu heavily yelled at every disciple, reprimanding them. Did you want to slaughter your fellow sect members? We'll let you act. Ah, but we didn't do it for the young miss. All the disciples were confused. Apologies for just now. Jiao Shu apologetically cupped his fist, his expression actually sincere with no sign of falsity. This child Hongxue is too tsundere. Precisely as junior brother Su Xing said to the extreme. She has been spoiled and needs someone to discipline her. When I heard someone could chide her, I actually wanted to make friends with him. I must implore that you do not mind the matter that occurred just now. She definitely needs some proper control. However, her being spoiled is something you indulge her in. Su Xing snorted. Haha, junior brother Su Xing truly has hit the mark with those words. Jiao Shu laughed. Senior brother Jiao, what are you saying? Ruang Hongxue thought she had misheard. How could you become friends with him, Hongxue? From now on, you must not act without regard for the rules. You're acting as you please in the Four Styles school. That is because you have the headmaster at your back and an astral treasure upon your person that you can run amok here. However, if you exit the Four Styles school, you will pay the price. Jiao Shu lectured her. This young lady does not want to go out. Isn't going out death? Tan Ruan Hongxue twitched her mouth. Jiao Shu shook his head. Thing had suddenly become like this, so Su Xing was slightly surprised by the turn of events. Nevertheless, he happily watched this play. A moment afterwards, Jiao Shu said, the matter just now was somewhat in violation of the rules. Is it possible to return the artifacts that were absorbed to the disciples? Tang Lianxin coldly looked at him, throwing the astral tool, weapon removal scroll. The scroll once again opened, and the artifacts flew out. Everyone looked at Tang Lianxin with lingering fears. Even Jiao Shu was slightly afraid. As expected, Master Aunt Yueka is somewhat insightful. Junior brothers Su Xing and Lianxin are both giants among men. The future four-style school will rely on you two junior brothers. Jiao Shu sincerely spoke. Go to hell. The four-style school does not need to rely on this shameless bastard. Wan Hongxue angrily stamped her foot. She raised an escape light, not wanting to stay a moment longer. Before leaving, she glared at Su Xing. Su Xing could tell she probably wanted to eat him alive. He chatted with Jiao Shu for a while, finding that he had grown as a refined and smart person, not at all someone who would aid an evildoer as he had imagined. After returning to the mirror's flower stream, passing through the matter that previously occurred, the relationship between the two had been pulled greatly closer. Just as Su Xing prepared to first go to the Void Immortal's abode, at this time, Tang Lianxin took the initiative to call out to him. Su Xing thought this was strange. That charming youth threw a similar thing to Su Xing. With a look, it was a book titled Four Schools Deep Arts. 11. Su Xing did not understand. Tang Lianxin explained. If you want to learn the four-style school's true tool refinement, this will be of aid to you. Su Xing was curious. Flipping through it, inside were a few of Tang Lianxin's notes, and among them were a few shallow four styles foundations that made Su Xing very surprised. This four styles foundations portion was something else. It was precisely the four styles school's four styles refinement, gained through experience. Actually, there was one important reason Wu Xinjie chose the four styles school, was that the four styles school's tool refinement was a characteristic that was absolute in the Azure Dragon territory. Even in the Great Liang dynasty, they used the four styles of fire, thunder, water and wind in their refinement technique. Heavenly fire tempering, thunder roll refinement, warm water moistening, divine wind engraving. 12. Every step contained the power of the four styles of heaven and earth. Using this four styles to refine an artifact far surpassed others by a rank, and it could also make the star generals with their essence chi spirit refinement technique to feel this was an admirable refinement technique. However, this kind of four styles refinement was extremely difficult. First of all, for different kinds of power, seize the level of perfection. Moreover, to be able to mutually use them skillfully, to master this four styles, needed a very long time. Even if it was the tool refinement scholar Yuxi Qingshan or Ju Yueka, both had grasped two styles. The former was heavenly fire tempering and thunder roll refinement, while Ju Yueka was warm water moistening and divine wind engraving. Originally, Su Xing hoped that being able to grasp one refinement style was pretty good. Looking over this four schools deep arts, Su Xing could not help but pleased beyond his expectations. Amazing, amazing. To be able to figure out this method is truly outstanding. Su Xing sat on the rainbow bridge in the immortal's abode, flipping through that four schools deep arts, continuously exclaiming in admiration. Young lord, what is outstanding? Warm and soft jade arms embraced his neck from behind. Wu Xinjie blew air very gently beside his ear. Look, Su Xing gave the book to her. Actually, written inside was not any incomparable art or top-notch soul technique. It only had a few experiences and suppositions pertaining to the four styles of refinement. As everyone knew, the four styles schools, heavenly fire tempering, thunder roll refinement, warm water moistening, divine wind engraving, did not have a match under heaven. However, an overall survey of a millennia did not have any tool refinement masters that could reach this realm. Even the founding master that opened the school did not achieve it. The reason was very simple, and that was because of the four styles' mutual restraint. If he followed the refinement of the four styles, then he would necessarily grasp this four styles. However, the obvious fact that fire and water mutually restrained each other, since time immemorial, was known by everyone. To let a tool refinement master simultaneously use fire tempering refinement and the warm water moistening simply was impossible to accomplish. If it was not for legend saying that the heaven and earth of the four styles sword was refined using the four styles, perhaps simply everyone would not believe it. Although the four styles school also thought over using other ways to replace it, for example, speaking of Yuqi Qingshan and Zhu Yueka, one person cultivating two types of refinement styles, then recomposing afterwards. However, this was not something a tool refinement master could finish in one go. After all, not only was the result far from ideal, it was so much so that it was even more ruined. Consequently, for 1,000 years, the Four Styles school was close to abandoning the Four Styles refinement. But this Tang Lianxin was truly a tool refinement wizard. Within her notes was an alternate approach, introducing a set of collecting and nurturing the two styles of fire and water. It was actually very simple. Tang Lianxin conversely used the mutual engenderment theory. The experiences of Tang Lianxin in the Four Styles sect all accumulated the essential components, with the culprit being the mutual engenderment and restraint of wind, thunder, water, and fire. If a cultivator wanted to genuinely refine the four styles in the notes of four schools' deep art, then the most basic foundation of the five elements was important. That was according to the successive mutual engenderment of the four styles theory. For this reason, Tang Lianxin added into the four styles the forgotten style of earth. Consequently, there was this sort of result: earth birthed water, water birthed thunder, thunder birthed fire, fire birthed wind, and wind birthed earth. This way, cultivators completely could grasp this five styles within their bodies, thereby achieving the four styles refinement. It was just that this theory also had a major flaw, that was to first of all learn the earth style. Earth attribute acting as qi. Using this type to refine divine weapons was nearly an ancient, immemorial, or higher secret technique. It required learning the earth style's difficulties, not to mention a tool refinement master that had just entered the trade. Even great scholars the likes of Zhu Yueka did not have this kind of cultivation method. Ah, if it's like this, young lord. Wu Xinjie was exceptionally surprised after looking through its entirety. I just so happen to have the earth style. Su Xing nodded. His purple star transforming qi was precisely classified as earth. Originally, it was a qi flame specially used to refine the heavenly spirit earthly fiend five-element sword. But now, it seemed to flawlessly match Tang Lianxin's five styles mutual engenderment. Su Xing had just entered the school, and after learning how earth birthed water, the water category of refinement would be achieved. In an accident, Su Xing was about to become the first within the Azure Dragon territory to master the four styles refinement in 1,000 years. This Tang Lianxin truly is incredible. Analyzing clearly and logically, he is just like a great scholar. Wu Xinjie looked at the words and felt the owner that wrote this book was diligent and meticulous. It was difficult to imagine this sort of person was a youth that was not even 17 or 18. With this unexpected enlightenment, Su Xing busily considered how he should learn the water style. His current master, Zhu Yueka's heavenly water heart flame, was precisely supreme grade water category. Requesting her to teach him actually was a victory that was close by. When Wu Xinjie saw Su Xing had such a big harvest, she was happy from the bottom of her heart. She suddenly turned, her nephrite, warm fragrance planting onto Su Xing's chest. Both her hands wrapped around his neck like before, her words charming as silk. Young Lord Su Xing. Xinjie has something she wants to say. Her soft body rubbed against Su Xing's inner thigh. It made Su Xing somewhat stir. Lowering his head, he saw the girl's flirtatious mien, her limpid and clear eyes. Say what? Su Xing also seized the chance to put the book down and embraced Wu Xinjie. The two taking this position with the woman on top, too, was a very rare intimacy. Wu Xinjie giggled. She leaned close to Su Xing's ear and whispered, her full chest sticking without any restraint to her man's chest. No way. The pleasured Su Xing heard Wu Xinjie's words, and his lust immediately quelled. He looked at Wu Xinjie in astonishment, instantly shaking his head. How could I relax if you went out alone? Su Xing said. As it turned out, Wu Xinjie unexpectedly wanted to advantage of the time Su Xing was cultivating to return to the Azure Dragon territory. In her hand was a 10,000 spirits notice, and upon it was many of Liangshan's secret places, forbidden zones, labyrinths, tombs, lost traces and such that she carefully recorded. Actually, Wuxia issuing this decision was something she pondered over for a long time. Although she very much loved to stay at Su Xing's side, she also knew that if the future purple star birth outline came, she absolutely could not accept doing nothing. The sisters all had something to do, and she could only be unoccupied. At that time, Wuxia wanted to sign a contract with Su Xing, because she felt with their perfect combination, they definitely could walk through the labyrinths under heaven. Some of these were labyrinths and forbid dances opened specifically for the star duels, secret places, and historical remains in some place that were in some aspect powerful in their own way. Originally, the Heavenly Calamity Talisman was something Wu Xingji obtained from inside ancient remains. Her plan was good, but Su Xing nevertheless was unable to be at ease to let her leave, even though he knew the knowledge star could take care of herself. Little sister Shi Yuan will also go together with Xinjia, the knowledge star said. With the two of us, a few pitfalls and mazes cannot worry us. Young lord, could it be you still do not believe in us? Xinjia, you know it's not that I don't believe in you. How can I let my woman go take chances? Su Xing disagreed. I know young lord's heart aches for us, but Xinjia is young lord's woman as well as his star general. When Wu Xinjia heard Su Xing's words, her heart sweetened. She almost just wanted to stay like this, but the knowledge star knew the star duels were not flirtatious banter, not a problem that tender honey intent could settle. Under Wu Xinjia's soft persuasion, Su Xing gradually was not a match, but a labyrinth's dangers heavily gave him a difficult choice. How about this? At the time Yuaner and I break open a labyrinth. If we cannot accomplish it, then Xinjia can only obediently stay at young lord's side. All right. Su Xing compromised. The knowledge star, after all, was ranked third. Making her do nothing at all was impossible. Thank you, young lord. Wu Xinjia said sweetly, suddenly exploiting the opportunity to passionately plant her lips onto Su Xing's in a deep kiss. The two's lips sucked at each other, kissing to the limit of sweethearts under heaven. Su Xing's suppressed lust again could not help but surge. Both his hands gently stroked from Wu Xinjia's back downwards, grabbing the girl's two soft lumps, his 10 fingers unable to refrain from kneading them. Wu Xinjia panted deeply from Su Xing's pair of evil-doing hands, and she immediately felt a hard object press against her butt. Young lord. Their kiss finished, Wu Xinjia's coquettish glances were like silk, pink with a lustful fragrance. You're always like this, so be careful that someday I will brutally finish you off, Xinjia. Su Xing pinched her soft flesh. Wu Xinjia bit her lower lip, groaning. If young lord wants Xinjia, then take me. How could I do something that would hurt you? Su Xing also knew to endure under his enormous lust. As far as star generals were concerned, the price of losing her virginity was not small. First of all, she would lose her Yuan Yin. 3. And the star maiden would lose the star nest coexistence between her and her contractor. Secondly was the response to one another. Finally, her pure Yin would leak, and her star energy would greatly decrease, her vitality greatly harmed. The star general would also sink into a very long period of poor health. It was not as if there were not any benefits. Reportedly, it could replenish magic losing one's virginity. This, for now at least, was a matter where the gains did not make up the losses. Hearing Wu Xinjia say as such, Su Xing's heart could not help but somewhat receive no small measure of emotional disturbance. After the evil smiting hall phase, Xinjia will then give young Lord Xinjia's virgin body. Wu Xinjia softly said. The two kissed even more passionately. The other sisters in the immortal's abode had been staring straight at the two's sentimentality in broad daylight. And Suwen turned her face away, pretending she saw nothing, whereas Shi Yuan could not take her eyes away. Lin Yingmei was silent, and Yan Yizhen's face was expressionless, her eyes exposing continuous surprise. This deep love of the knowledge star actually made Yan Yizhen feel extreme surprise. The two apparently were somewhat passionate to the depths of the abyss. Shi Yuan watched with wide eyes as Su Xing's hand slid from Wu Xinjia's back into that skirt of hers, and his other hand stretched in from the clothes that were parted away. His hand could not help but slip into the anticipated obstruction, entering a warm place. Wu Xingjia's slender legs tightened. Cough cough. Sure Yuan was choked by this passion. Ah. Only with this did Wu Xingjie recall. There were little sisters here. She immediately bashfully blushed as she buried her face into Su Xing's chest. Su Xing chuckled, drawing out his hands from within her clothes. Elder sister Yingmei, elder sister Yizhen, Suwen has found you two are completely able to spar against each other for training. And Suwen gently said, tactfully distracting everyone from this awkward mood. The efficacious star's unintentional words actually made Su Xing, Wu Xingjie and the rest's eyes light up. 5. The sparring between the majestic star and the skillful star actually was practicable. Lin Yingmei looked at Yin Yizhen. The indifferent maid then turned her gaze to Su Xing. As you wish, but don't be too overboard. Su Xing said. Between the majestic star and the skillful star were a top-quality spear technique and a #1 boxing. It was unknown what kind of spark this would give rise to. Yin Yizhen nodded. Lin Yingmei and Yin Yizhen then stood at two ends, a distance of 100 paces. Lin Yingmei's hands were empty for a moment, and then the Arctic Star Serpent Spear was immediately in hand. Yin Yizhen clenched both her hands and tightened her body. A snow-white thigh stepped out from the fork of her skirt, assuming an attack posture, and the yin-yang Pisces fists appeared. Elder sister Yingmei, pardon me. This one beneath you shall accompany you. Yin Yizhen's foot stepped, and in a split second, she was like the arrow loosed from the bowstring. They only saw the airflow break with a boom. The power of this fist was fierce without rival. Lin Yingmei at the same time skillfully dodged. When she swayed, she incited the Arctic Star Spear to welcome it. Two fists repeatedly boomed. Lin Yingmei flung the cold wind on the spear tip, still breaking open Yin Yizhen's boxing power. Then with a sudden thrust, the spear was like a lightning bolt, penetrating Yin Yizhen's defenses. The girl's body was knocked onto its back. With a flip, she fell several dozens of meters away. Hey! Yin Yizhen immediately rushed, her figure arriving in a blink. The sound of the air ripping apart suddenly magnified, as if it was something created from nothing. Under Yin Qing's increasingly severe boxing, the air seemed to have been torn into pointy sword qi. Several dozen sword qi suddenly filled the space surrounding Lin Yingmei. In the next moment, the sword qi abruptly spun, already swiftly and fiercely cutting. It was just like Lin Yingmei was placed in the center of a grinding machine. The air broke into pieces in an instant. Lin Yingmei's spear unleashed an ice-soul-cold light that immediately blocked the seemingly fierce tip qi. Those indifferent red pupils immediately arrived in front of her. The cold ice of the left fist and the warm flame of the right fist became yin and yang. When the Pisces circulated, the maid's genuine attack was achieved in one step. Clang-clang. The spear shaft blocked the two fists, but the strength on the fists was like a bursting flood, pouring down in torrents. Lin Yingmei's figure immediately slid backwards almost 100 steps. Her figure leapt, and Yin Qing's two fists connected. The yin-yang Pisces burst out and shot towards Lin Yingmei, nearly not giving the majestic star any chance to gasp for breath. During the time Lin Yingmei waved her spear to cut down this bursting light, the skillful star's figure was vigorous, flying like a swallow and attacking. She spun to Lin Yingmei's front in an instant, the power of the spurt of energy like a tiger. It was the watching Su Xing, could not help but feel worried for Lin Yingmei. The strength of the emotionless maid's attack was indeed suffocating. From the start, her boxing was continuously linked, pressing hard step by step. In the moment she opened wide and closed was great skill and power. Her usual opponent simply did not have time to react. Su Xing thought, the star generals are abnormal. If it was he who fought with Yin Qing, such a powerful boxing closing in on him would be a disaster. Right now, Su Xing actually also inherited Yin Qing's boxing arts. It was truly contrived, and it really did not completely lack resistance. What kind of person was the majestic star pantherhead? Lin Yingmei's eyes were serious, as she confronted the rushing Yin Qing's sluggishness in the air without fluster. Her nimble body beautifully shifted forwards, evading Yin Qing's fist. The majestic star slashed at the skillful star's back, then cut Yin Qing down to the ground. This one beneath you is much obliged. The panther head coldly shouted, Disappear, appear. Like the sound of thunder, it swept downwards. A frigid brilliance seemingly tore open an empty space. Too fast. Su Xing and the rest could only feel the sight before them become dazzling. Yan Yizhen retreated backwards, and Lin Yingmei overtook her in an upsurge with an assault that was just like a blizzard. Not hesitating in the slightest, Yan Yizhen's figure suddenly leapt out. In the next moment, she already arrived inside the brutal attack, but when she entered, those apathetic eyes finally showed a trace of astonishment. She discovered Lin Yingmei's Arctic Star Spear technique could be rated as extremely perfect, and the penetrating cold that came from all directions made her greatly surprised. The discharge from the spear's tip pressed in from everywhere, making it difficult for Yan Yizhen to stay out of the way no matter how she tried. In the next attack, Lin Yingmei and the spear in her hand together shot towards her opponent. The sound of the air ripping apart with the hum of bees poured into Su Xing and the other's ears. The icy blue light suddenly flashed and extinguished. This vertical slash was swift beyond imagination, and by the time Yan Yizhen felt this was not too encouraging, the spear tip already arrived in front of her. Yan Yizhen's complexion tightened. Her knees bent and her fists joined. The slashing cold spear stiffly stopped before her eyes. The cold tip on the spear ripped apart several hairs of the girl's neat and orderly bangs. Empty hands beat the naked sword. 2. Little sister, you have creativity. Lin Yingmei had difficulty giving praise, lowering her wrist. As far as the majestic star was concerned, this kind of empty hands beating the naked sword was far from enough. The Arctic Star Serpent Spear's power fiercely pressed down. The next moment, that clever body technique of the skillful star showed a scene that made Su Xing and the others astonished. They saw the maid's body lean left, leaning towards her empty side in a half-spin, a clever escape. She stepped directly on Lin Yingmei's spear, which could be said to be stunning beyond compare. The wanderer Yan Qing stepped on the spear, which Lin Yingmei raised. The skillful star seized the chance to directly stick herself into the clouds. At the same time, a long and resounding harsh whistling sounded. Furthermore, it rapidly dispersed into the surroundings. She passed a distance of several tens of meters in the blink of an eye. The speed of a white steed flitting past a crack was merely so. In the instant Lin Yingmei lifted her head, Yan Qing was just like a heroic fighter. She attacked to her front, both fists repeatedly unleashed. Astonishingly, it was yellow rank boxing. Swallow flash samsara. Lin Yingmei did not shrink back. Turning her spear sideways, the blizzard continuously revolved in the surroundings. It was long blizzard nights. Each instant the two powerful heavenly star generals intersected was deadly. The shape of the area surrounded by weapon and fist rapidly fluctuated. Occasionally, spear light warped, and occasionally, shadowy fists crossed. Along with the gradual dimming of the star crest on their bodies. At this time, Su Xing, Wu Xinjia, and Suwen and Shi Yuan all did not dare breathe for fear that they would miss all the details. For every place the Arctic Star Serpent Spear's tip swept past, not only was the barely pervasive cold frost even more thick, even the void seemed to have been clogged. The white-hot weapon brought with it a cold wind, seemingly a formless sickle that slashed towards the opposing Yan Yizhen. Even if it was a swift and nimble figure, it could not hide from layers upon layers of a tidal offensive. Lin Yingmei's sudden all-out attack nearly could be said to have no gaps at all. In a split second, Yan Yizhen used the profound steps of the 8 trigrams to avoid that spear's entire attack. Taking advantage of the moment Lin Yingmei stabbed empty space, she flashed to the side of her counterpart's attack. The shadow of her fist unwrapped like a ribbon. However, she was too late in enjoying knocking down the person in front of her when Lin Yingmei's spear tip swept over. This kind of restabilization speed was exceptionally quick. Following the weapon's rapid rotation, the ice-cold spear point drew a straight line that did not run through anything, and it changed into countless circles. The intertwining curves blocked the lights that splashed out from Yan Yizhen's hand. The crisp sounds of the intersections of the Arctic Star Spear and Yin-Yang Pisces fists was continuous and unending. There were no gaps or room to turn around. The corner of Lin Yingmei's mouth involuntarily curved while excitement flit across Yan Yizhen's eyes. the two actions bringing out the best in each other. Lin Yingmei contrarily raised a red light against the fist light that dropped from the sky. Countless snowy gusts splashed the moment the weapon collided. The staggered two people once again sunk into a winding battle. The two people in their high-speed mobile warfare sunk into an intense battle, and the entire Immortals' abode saw countless shadowy movements. Seemingly continuous time could not keep up with the pace of the two. It was just like they already approached the 10,000 techniques realm. Skillful star Yin Yizhen's boxing was indeed clever to the peak, but for the battle in the end, it was the Liangshan Maiden's majestic star Lin Yingmei of the Five Tigers General, who was even more victorious. When the Arctic Star Serpent Spear pressed against Yin Yizhen's throat, it ended this bout, having let Su Xing feast his eyes on this battle of heavenly stars. And this fighting team did not fail to bring gains to Su Xing. His ocean of consciousness had an even more outstanding understanding towards the fighting style of the majestic star and skillful star. For the future time he would stay at the Mirror's Flower Stream, Su Xing and the Five Beauties each had their respective assignments. From the hope of that four styles, he found out from Tang Lianxin, Su Xing began to exert himself on tool refinement and gain some achievement. He strove for the fastest time to settle that aging but beautiful master of his, in order to learn the water category refinement technique. As long as he had a few of Wu Tai's notes, Su Xing was not a rookie in the field of tool refinement. He easily passed the most basic test that took place 3 days later. Just at the time Su Xing began to diligently hide his cultivation tool, those outside Mirror's Flower Stream circulated his famous name everywhere. He had not been at the Four Styles School for a day, when he controlled more than a dozen flying swords to defeat 10 cultivators at the same stage as he. Furthermore, he made the Ruan Hongxue who possessed a nebula magic weapon forced to be humble. Finally, he competed fiercely against the Jiao Shu of the Four Styles Schools, 4 great disciples in divine intent, effortlessly defeating him. Su Xing had only come for several days, yet everything that happened caused a sensation in all of the school. It was just like he had become the celebrity that the Four Styles School chatted about, where even the headmaster was giddy over him. On this night, Su Xing lay face down on the bed, snoring loudly. Suddenly, he felt his arm tighten. Opening his eyes to look, he did not know how, but Tang Lianxin's arms had hugged him. This child actually was very pretty. Su Xing looked over Tang Lianxin's sleeping posture, and it actually had that bit of a petite and exquisite flower fragrance. Vermilion cherries with a trace of a taste of intimacy. Su Xing shivered. He had 5 women, so how could he have the intent to be intimate with Tang Lianxin? Could it be possible he had received his feminizing effect? Su Xing pulled out his hand, and right at this time, the star crest on his forehead flashed. He sensed Shi Yuan was calling him. So Su Xing then put on his clothes and very carefully went out the door. Outside the door, Su Xing spotted Wu Xinjie and the others. The moonlight of Mirror's Flower Stream was shattered to pieces. Within the hazy image, the 5 girls under the moonlight resembled a dreamy fantasy. Each pair of those beautiful pupils flowed with a distinct emotion, but when they saw Su Xing appear, they each simultaneously and spontaneously showed caring and happy expressions. "What's the matter? This late?" Su Xing yawned. Tomorrow, he was to prepare to go to the tool refinement mission Zhu Yueker arranged. "Young lord, do you still remember your agreement with Xinjie?" Wu Xinjie's smiling face was like a flower. "Xinjie, do you really still want to go to the outside to look for ancient ruins?" Su Xing knit his brow. "But of course. Young lord currently is about to be galaxy stage. Yet you do not have any sword arts to use. Xinjie knows several ruins have left behind sword arts." Wu Xinjie earnestly replied. "Actually, we can go together." Su Xing blurted, but he knew it was futile. Wu Xinjie certainly would make him fight for time to cultivate in the Void Immortal's abode and pursue tool refinement. The eve of the start of the Purple Star Birth outline was a pivotal point where time could not be wasted. Su Xing then said, "All right then. If Xinjie insists, I won't oppose, but Xinjie wants to make young lord feel relief, right?" Wu Xinjie pursed her lips. Su Xing nodded. "Sister Xinjie has already found a labyrinth. Tonight, we called young lord to go take a look." Shi Yuan said, pleased with herself. It seemed that finding the labyrinth was her contribution. This island also has a labyrinth on it? Su Xing did not expect Wu Xinjie really could find one. Wrong, it's not on the island. Rather, it's this sect. Shi Yuan corrected. Four Styles School's rear mountain. This topography stood out from the rest, and the representative four styles of wind, thunder, water, and fire were boundlessly carved over the entire mountain. Vividly portrayed, this mountain was an independent existence. Following a stone bridge connection, the surroundings were a 10,000-fathom chasm. The only thing visible was an oil lamp, layer upon layer of yin qi. Past this stone bridge was a spacious plaza. Several dozen statues reaching 4 or 5 meters were placed on both ends of the entrance in succession. Some grasped swords, some were kindly, some were heavily murderous, and some trembled with an immortal's qi. Su Xing could even call out the names of these stone statues. Founding Master, the Taoist Master Qianquan. 3. Second-generation Headmaster, the Taoist Master Qiantian. Third-generation Headmaster. Su Xing was more and more amazed. This was exactly the Four Style School's forbidden zone. Qianquan Tomb. 5. Su Xing had been at the Four Styles School for not more than 10 days. He did not understand much about the Qianquan Tomb, but he nevertheless knew the sole restricted area of the Four Styles School was this place. Buried here were the successive generations of the Four Styles School's headmasters and elders. Again, owing to the fact that the Four Styles School was a tool refinement great school, the mausoleum was bound to have refined many mechanisms. Reportedly, only the headmaster could know the maze while the average person would enter inevitable death. To Wu Xinjie, however, this tomb could only count as something to prove herself. In addition, there was another very important reason why the Knowledge Star chose the Qianquan Tomb, and that concerned a legend of the Four Styles School's founding master, the Taoist Master Qianquan. This Qianquan Tomb reportedly was established in the old days when the Taoist Master Qianquan used his power and died sitting up. Afterwards, the later generations of headmasters and elders would enter this tomb at the time of their death. Every cultivator that entered this tomb would use their powers inside to lay down a mechanism. Therefore, this tomb snowballed into something increasingly large, increasingly complex. But what was slightly strange was that, from the very beginning, the tomb of the Taoist Master Qianquan could not be found in the Qianquan Tomb. The legends about him were many. With abilities as powerful as his, the mausoleum mechanisms would be countless, that other people simply could not find it. Furthermore, before the Taoist Master Qianquan died sitting, he suddenly obtained the immortal fruit and ascended to immortal status. Or perhaps he went free and unfettered. In a word, there were all kinds of fantastic theories. You want to find the Taoist Master Qianquan's grave? Su Xing asked, surprised. This way can let young lord be at ease, right? Wu Xinjie was fully self-confident, and Suwen, on the contrary, was somewhat anxious. But is it not unfindable? Maybe there really isn't one. No, there definitely is one. He merely used some kind of ingenious mechanism to hide it. Wu Xinjie giggled. The reason why she was this certain was because the Four Styles School's sect protecting treasure Four Styles Qianquan sword. Originally, the Taoist Master Qianquan exactly used this divine sword that made him famous to cut out his own grave. So there was no way it was not here. Let's go in and take a look. Su Xing knew he was unable to persuade Wu Xinjie. Young lord, just for this time, please do not act. Wu Xinjie smiled. Su Xing nodded. Standing before the tomb and gazing past the plaza, they saw the towering door was simple and unadorned. A long and expansive divine path, trailing from the south to the north in a straight direction. The stone persons and beasts on each end were formidable and solemn. Shi Yuan loathed tombs and such because the yin qi inside was too heavy, nourishing too many ghosts and yin beasts. And something like the Four Styles Great School's Qianquan Tomb, perhaps, was even more complex. However, Shi and Wu Xinjie thought the same, and they also wanted to help Su Xing settle a burden. Despite the worry on their faces, they were still determined. When Su Xing saw this, he could not help but smile. Entering the Qianquan Tomb's interior, The inside was continuously alight with longevity lanterns. It seemed that not only was the inside not black, it was contrarily relatively brightly lit. These longevity palace lanterns were without odor or flicker. Reportedly, if a particular type of demon beast's oil was taken from the 10,000 li of seabed, it could burn for 1,000 years without going out. For this reason, it was called the 1,000-year lamp. And it could be seen how imposing the four-style school previously was. The interiors first and foremost was a wide main hall. The main hall's floor had embagwa, 2 drawing, with 8 channels each with 8 sliding doors. The door structures had nothing in common with each other. Some had engraved railings and painted ridgepoles with gold and jade embellishments. Some had vermilion red liang wood, which emitted a delicate fragrance. Some had penetrating white jade, and some even were ordinary. It was unknown whether the successive generations of cultivators that entered this tomb all were fond of high-ranking decorations or something. The tomb's walled-in path was extremely deep. How many ancestors are buried here? Su Xing thought of this offense. He watched for how Wuxia would go seek out the Taoist master Qingquan's grave. If she searched alone, perhaps she would not even find daybreak. The knowledge star's brow wrinkled. She took out an ancient book, flipped through some pages, and then spun several circles in the hall. Everyone idly sat to the side with nothing to do. Su Xing was surreptitiously paying close attention. Feeling the bagua diagram below their feet should have some sort of hint. However, searching for this after a long while made him somewhat dizzy. He really was not good at this type of classical riddle situation. Sister Xinjia, why are we staying here? Aren't we going in to look? From what I see, this pathway lined with jade is pretty good. Shi Yuan looked left and right. Her attention had been attracted by a tunnel completely lined with jade. That over there is useless. It does not have the Taoist master Qingquan's grave, for his tomb's concealment should be even more clever. Wu Xinjie said. But staying here is also useless. Shi Yuan said. The knowledge star smiled but did not speak. Approximately an oil lamp later, after the knowledge star inspected the 8 tunnels, she finally nodded. Honestly speaking, Su Xing also could not make out what the trick was. The only thing he could discern was that the hall's bagua diagram and the 8 tunnels were somewhat related. It was just that he was not too clear on what the significance was of this type of concealed relationship. Just as he thought this, Wu Xinjie said, "This tomb concealment is indeed ingenious. Young lord, I have inspected it." Wu Xinjie turned her head and winked. Su Xing smiled, actually quite looking forward to what discoveries she made. He saw Wu Xinjie stand on the bagua drawing. She meditated briefly, then twirled her hands in the orchid seals. The relief sculpture on the bagua drawing immediately came alive with changes. Some level, and even places gave rise to recesses, while some recesses were then filled in. Su Xing vaguely saw a bit of a clue, but was still somewhat unclear. After all, this thing that was the bagua was not something he had a deep understanding of. And Suwen, on the other hand, cried out in surprise. So it turned out to be this. Elder sister Knowledge Star truly has discerning eyes. Everyone asked her what had happened. Just as Suwen was about to respond, Wu Xinjie said, "Young lord, little sisters, come enter quickly." The group then walked onto the yin-yang diagram. After Wu Xinjie changed the final trigram, an inconceivable thing happened. When the yin-yang symbol in the center of the bagua changed, it moved left and right, and the entire yin-yang symbol immediately caved inward. How did you figure this mechanism out? Su Xing asked in admiration. What profound theory does that bagua have? That bagua seems ordinary at first glance, but its positions are actually incorrectly arranged. Wu Xinjie explained. As it turned out, when they first entered the main hall, Wu Xinjie saw the profound theory of the bagua picture. As a result, in order to solve the concealed contents, did they stop over at the hall? Brute force did not trump those that used their heads, and this actually let her discover a place that stood out from the rest. Stood out from the rest? Everyone was startled, because they completely were unable to make out anything that stood out. The 8 doors used different materials in their construction, but each type of material actually represents one type of the 8 trigrams properties. For example, the splendid gold jade's representative gold Wood category is for Qian and Dui. 3 Liang wood naturally represents wood Zhen and Sun. What lacked any decorations was earth Kuan and Zhen. 5 As far as water and fire, that was harder to guess. Water's aspect was a white jade carving of a type of water flower, and the fire door had an extra longevity lamp. These seemingly were insignificant, but in the knowledge star's eyes, they immediately turned into a complete Bagua diagram. But this still did not count as anything. Even more awesome was that Wu Xinjie noticed the main arrangement of the Bagua on the main hall's floor. If the Bagua doors were looked at from the arrangement of the Bagua, that main hall clearly did not adhere to the rules. This was the abnormality. As far as Wu Xinjie was concerned, this was the mechanism. What came after was very simple. She only needed to change the hall's Bagua to that arrangement of the Bagua doors, but she did not expect this mechanism would actually open. After hearing Wu Xinjie's explanation, everyone truly prostrated themselves in admiration. Without first mentioning the level of genius in the arrangement of this Bagua mechanism, the Bagua diagram on the hall's floor were very familiar. Without outstanding insight, how could anyone spot whatever was incorrect? Only Wu Xinjie could achieve this without difficulty. No wonder those cultivators couldn't find it. If anyone arranged for their tomb to be beneath the mausoleum, who could think of that? Su Xing sighed. The girls deeply believed this was so. If it was not for the knowledge star's exceeding insight and scholarship, the Four Styles School would have difficulty thinking of this, even if given 1,000 years. Is there really another tomb down below? Shi Yuan was anxious. Be careful, Su Xing said, holding her hand to comfort the thief star. Very quickly, they fell to the bottom, and sure enough, there was a completely different world below. When Su Xing and the rest stepped off the yin-yang picture, it slowly rose and sealed the exit. The underground cavern was dim beyond compare. Su Xing lit a Taoist light talisman. The light talisman shone. Ding ding ding. 6 They saw a more than 100 square meter hall. The longevity lanterns long ago had went out, but the surrounding walls' brilliance clearly were meticulously filled in by people. There was a large door. This young lady will go see if there are any mechanisms. Shi Yuan jumped down. Having received Su Xing's encouragement, she had a lot of courage. The thief star's body techniques hid, and she secretly entered the air. Ah! In an instant, they heard Shi Yuan shriek. Su Xing's heart tightened, and he immediately rushed over. How could he expect Shi Yuan would right away run out from that door, all of a sudden throwing herself into Su Xing's chest? Yuaner, what is the matter? Wu Xinjie said. Rustling. They saw a dark red centipede 10 times the normal size climb out. With sharp saw teeth, 1 meter in length, that 100 feet of pitch black and complete red was exceedingly terrifying. Ah, it's a 100-corpse centipede. 7 Wu Xinjie shouted. Su Xing had not yet figured out what the 100-corpse centipede was, that it deserved Wu Xinjie's fear, when in the next second, that 100-corpse centipede promptly displayed its terrifying side. The 100-corpse centipede's 100 feet trembled, and thousands upon hundreds of small centipedes the length of fingers shot out like rain. The 100-corpse centipede was categorized as a type of ancient demon insect. It lived beneath the ground, feeding on rocks and earth, using yin qi as nutrition. It could easily breach any cave, and its body reportedly had millions of larvae. With a tremble of its 100 feet, it got its name from the seeming torrential downpour. In the event these centipedes made contact, they would immediately drill into a person's skin and eat them clean. In addition, this 100-corpse centipede had been nourished by yin qi. Its attacks were specialized nasty artifacts and cultivation methods. Usual methods would have difficulty protecting against these. Also, owing to the fact they were underground, their attacks would be even more frightening. However, with regards to Su Xing, these were not things to be scared of at all. His hand shook, about to use the blooming water divine thunder to cleanly smite them. Big brother, allow little sister. And Suan abruptly said. Lin Yingmei, Yin Yizhen and the rest halted their attacks. They saw Suan beckon with her finger, and more than 60 jade lights flashed. They rolled in their surroundings, forming an essence qi defense. Those small centipedes of the 100-corpse centipede were incapable of penetrating it, blocking them with a pitter-patter. What formed the defensive barrier was not just anything. It was precisely the ancient monsters, essence-swallowing dragons. Compared to the essence-swallowing dragons, the 100-corpse centipede simple was not on the same level. Devour! And Suan angrily said. The essence-swallowing dragons suddenly parted. Just like crashing storm winds, they engulfed their way over. The spawn of the 100-corpse centipede that covered filled the overhead were instantly eaten clean. Once they were eaten, several essence-swallowing dragons unexpectedly divided and propagated. The ancient Inchi, the 100-corpse centipede stored underground, actually was a top-notch delicious snack for the essence-swallowing dragons. Compared to using every kind of suppressing evil gem bamboo ranked spirit chi from before to cultivate them, this speed was far faster. It was like discovering a treasure, so the essence-swallowing dragons ate even more cheerfully. More and more 100-corpse centipedes crawled out. Very quickly, the 100 square meters hall was crammed with the centipedes' disgusting corpses. They formed a dense mass, which would make the blood of people run cold upon looking at it. How could there be this many? Shi Yuan had goosebumps. If this place really is the Taoist master Qingquan's tomb, then at the very least, it has been more than 1,000 years since then. Su Xing said. Thinking about it was enough to make him shiver. A tomb that was hidden for 1,000 years had been opened, and they did not know how many bugs or animals were nourished. If it was not for Suan with the essence-swallowing dragon's mutual restraint, perhaps this trip to the tomb would indeed be hard to say. Everyone kept close against Suan's back, while the efficacious star's white hand beckoned. The cyan storm was unstoppable as it swept through the black centipedes. Fortunately, the essence-swallowing dragons was the nemesis of the 100-corpse centipedes. For the same category of ancient period demon bugs, the 100-corpse centipedes, that qi that was stored for 1,000 years was simply a delicacy. It was as if a hurricane of green shadows flowed out like quicksilver, making these 100-corpse centipedes basically unable to have a position to use their powers. For the sake of preventing these 100-corpse centipedes from seizing a chance to flee, Su Xing also unceremoniously used the 5 spirits blooming water immortals technique. His fingers released purple thunder talons that pinned all of them. Approximately several oil lamps later, the hall's black waves finally receded, and at this time, the essence-swallowing dragons increasingly expanded, just as if they already had more than 200 in number. Their movements already vaguely had the power of a dragon of legend, and using them right now, they were sufficient to be used for battle. Among them were several whose figures were brightly lit like green jade, with the hidden form of 2 wings. Clearly, there was a trend in rank advancement. Everyone was astonished. They did not expect the tomb Wu Xinjie inadvertently opened would unexpectedly bring such a large benefit. Suan also had unending admiration in the excitement in her eyes. She had cultivated the essence-swallowing dragons for so long, and now, they at long last could lend Big Brother a helping hand. Let's go in and take a look. Su Xing was all the more curious as he walked into that sliding door. Inside was another expansive main hall. He saw upon the cattail platform was a pale white skeleton, its 2 hands frozen in a hand seal. It sat upright, its body draped in a Qingquan bagua robe. Everyone immediately increased their pace. They only saw an illusory bagua ray pictograph suddenly appear before their eyes. This place has a bagua terror-inflicting array, Shi Yuan said in an alarmed voice. She had not finished speaking when the hall's scenery suddenly changed. A vast expanse of white smoke abruptly billowed and covered all directions in a confusion. Lin Yingmei promptly took out the Arctic Star Serpent Spear, and Yin Yizhen also tightly clenched her Yin-Yang Pisces fists. Su Xing asked, "What does this bagua terror-inflicting array do?" It releases 8 types of defensive jinns. As long as these 8 types of jinns are struck into the corresponding position they represent, they will disappear. Wu Xinjie took the place of Shi Yuan's reply. Right, however, this kind of bagua terror-inflicting array is generally used to test people. Why would it be arranged in a tomb? Tombs at the very least should be using that kind of fiend array. Shi Yuan was confused. It's just kill to break the array. What is hard about this? Lin Yingmei's voice was cold. The 8 Bagua Jins successively appeared from within the fog. Their hands held maces, 2 swords, sabers, hatchets, and every sort of sharp weapon. Draped in golden mail, they were like divine warriors. Lin Yingmei attacked her way into 3 Bagua Jins without the slightest hesitation. Carrying her spear, her thrust was a startling rainbow-piercing sun. 3. She stabbed the Bagua Jin that bore the brunt backwards more than 10 paces, while the other 2 Jins raised their hammer and hatchet, rushing to sweep at Lin Yingmei. The Arctic Star Serpent spear lowered, and Lin Yingmei exerted her strength to leap above the Jins. She turned, and her spear's power heavily slashed down. She hacked a Bagua Jin down onto the ground, and in midair, she relied on the snow-winged belly band to loftily drop like a swallow. Gracefully, she evaded the other Jin's chops. The one representing the Li of Fire opened its parasol, and flames gushed out, burning at the group. Su Xing shouted, both hands fiercely launching a blooming water divine thunder. The divine thunder purple cloud encircled and blocked the intensity of the fire. The ones that represented the Zhen, 5 of thunder, and the Dui, 6 of lake, each struck with their sword and saber. Several threatening thunderclaps or black water marshes swept over. The indifferent Yin Yizhen's fists pushed with open palms, removing the clap of thunder. The corners of the maid's skirt fluttered, and the crimson tattoo on her snow-white back glittered. In the midst of her rocking, she jumped above the black water, attacking. The Can 7 of water let out severe floods and fierce beasts. 8. The Gen 9 of earth and the sun. 10 of wind either quaked the earth or sent sand flying, forcing Su Xing and the rest back continuously. The Bagua terror-inducing array was a frightful magic circle. The Bagua Jins each had conspicuous abilities, and the 5 spirits' magic was more and more emergent. The strongest among them was actually the 2 Bagua Jins that did not have magic, the Qian of heaven and the Kuan of earth. However, they possessed remarkable powers, and their martial strength was super powerful. Fighting with Lin Yingmei, it was unclear who held the advantage. Su Xing raised the protective earth shield to defend the 3 girls Wu Xinjie, and Suwen, and Shi Yuan. Afterwards, he tossed the heaven sword, controlling the sword to go slashing. When this young lady gets out, she definitely will manufacture a set of this type of Bagua puppets. Shi Yuan saw this type of situation, and produced an exciting idea. Wu Xinjie nevertheless was not true about her words. She had already agreed to not let Su Xing act, but in the end, it still fell into this kind of situation, which made the knowledge star depress from her heart. Boom! A massive noise from within the square. The Zhen Jin suddenly soared high into the air. Lin Yingmei's spear unexpectedly raised this Jin up. Her power really was this valiant, which was absolutely stupefying. Yingmei, only by throwing it into the corresponding Bagua position can you kill it. Wu Xinjie shouted loudly. The majestic star loudly yelled. Lin Yingmei's spear flung, and this Jin was thrown onto the corresponding Bagua position. Immediately afterwards, she leapt to slash. The Arctic Star Serpent spear directly connected with the Zhen, eliminating it. The sound of a fire snake whistling rose, and Lin Yingmei retreated backwards. The Li whirled its parasol, both arms bringing together a fire python. The spear's tip broke through, the girl's appearance vigorous. The powerful Qian powerfully slashed with its 18 weapons. A huge sword cut it down. Then, a more than 1 meter thick purple thunder python immediately bit and retrieved the huge sword. The one who acted was exactly Su Xing. Without stopping for any rest, Su Xing's palms clenched, and the purple thunder python boomed. The Qian was beat back continuously. Lin Yingmei took advantage of this to cut open its attack. The Arctic Star Serpent spear directly attacked onto the Li, and the fire net broke, layer after layer, as the cold light brushed over its figure. Immediately, the Li similarly also turned into fire and smoke that dissipated when it fell onto its Bagua position. Yin Yizhen also stalled 2 Bagua Jins, which were the Zhen and Dui. The former moved layer upon layer of huge rocks to pound at her, but the maid's fist broke through and startled heaven. The Zhen also collapsed into pieces under Yin Yizhen's fist. The Dui let out 1,000 caddies of heavy water, but the maid was light as a feather, very quickly turning it into a sacrificial victim as well. The remaining 4 Bagua Jins were the Qian, Kuan, Kan, and Sun. Kan held a green banner, its right hand violently raised. Green shadows trembled for a few moments, and a massive, shining lance of pitch black already appeared in its hand. It was no less than 2 zhang in length. Suddenly, with a huge noise like a thunderclap, the Kuan threw the green lance towards Wuxia and the rest. The water in its hand became a lance, already changing into lightning as it madly pounced at Wuxia. A sharp, ear-piercing noise immediately ripped apart the atmosphere of the world, the surrounding airflow instantly affected by this immense strength. The earth shield shook. 2 flying claws at a glittering 1-star shot out from the shield and grabbed the dancing green banner of the Kansas. "Watch this, young ladies," Shi Yuan shouted. Wu Xingji also was unwilling to wait for death like this. When the kin was thrown backwards, she threw out a talisman. The talisman turned into a rolling black wind. Shi Yuan flew up, and the 2 claws dragged the kin into its place. Then, under the ruthless attack of the star weapons of 3 girls, the kin stepped into trailing dust. A violent wind like a blade. The sun's hand danced wildly, blowing sand in bursts. It was not able to sustain itself for too long under Su Xing's blooming water divine thunder and heaven sword, and it became the 6th to disappear into thin air. The last remaining were Qian and Kuan. One possessed remarkable abilities, excellent in 8 kinds of military skills. The latter was impervious to sword and spear, impenetrable by water and fire. It indeed made the 6 people feel a headache. However, anyway the 6 looked at these 2, victory was already at hand. Due to Wu Xingji and Suwen and Shi Yuan's control and obstruction of Kuan, Su Xing, Lin Mei and Yin Yizhen then went to handle Qian. The Qian changed into 3 heads and 6 arms. Its spear, sword, saber, pestle and the rest waved in a flurry. Su Xing's figure did a reverse bend in midair, dodging the Qian's 2 weapons. Once again speedily drawing close to it, Lin Mei and Yin Yizhen simultaneously used their weapons to hold back the Qian's counterattack. That frightening attack seemed to airtight, but this time, it was easily broken by Su Xing. One hand captured the Qian's shoulder while the other already firmly struck it. Within the ear-piercing booming noise, it was the first time Su Xing showed off a fierce boxing that was exactly just like Yin Qing's. Both his hands were just like flipping flour, unceasingly flickering over the Qian's body. In a short time, its attack had been broken through, and the Qian completely lost its proper evasion reactions. However, Su Xing's boxing alone was far from being able to bring a threat. When Su Xing withdrew his suppressive assault on the Qian, Lin Mei then waved her spear. The spear's light tore, and it madly slashed as if to pierce the sun and break the moon. When the Qian again went to obstruct Lin Mei, its defense towards Yin Yizhen over there completely collapsed. Afterwards, what happened was very simple. An ice-cold intent appeared on Yin Yizhen's face. Her 2 hands contained powerful strength, and she completely did not hesitate to use Swallow Flash Samsara. Under an assault that stuck to its body like this, the Qian's powerful corpse became just like a decoration. Not a teacup later, the final 2 Bagua Jin's Qian and Kuan simultaneously disappeared. The Bagua diagram flashed and shattered, the white fog at last dispersing. How could this place have this kind of people-probing magic circle? Wu Xingji was unable to understand. Shi Yuan excitedly said, "Who cares? But this young lady already wonders how to make an unrivaled Bagua puppet." After the white fog passed, the main hall was the way it was before. The only difference was that they unwittingly walked out 100 steps. Su Xing was not without caution as he sized up this room. The room was approximately 100 square meters. The walls all around were engraved with many incomprehensible relief sculptures and characters. This tomb had a carved stone monument. The topmost platform was a praying mat platform. The surroundings were arranged with porcelain bottles, calligraphy and paintings, and burnt-out aromatic stands. 1,000 years had passed, yet it seemed to be as peaceful as yesterday. On this praying mat, they saw a white skeleton, its hands bound in a seal. It sat cross-legged with a purple Qinquan robe draped over it. It wore an absolute ultimate purple gold crown, making them feel auspicious and peaceful. Suddenly, there was an intent to not disturb it. Could this be? Lin Mei wrinkled her brow. Taoist Master Qingquan. Su Xing spat these 4 words. Ah! The girls all looked at each other in dismay. And Wu Xinjie even somewhat had not returned to her senses. Just this easily, they found the Taoist Master Qingquan's resting place. This is really the Taoist Master Qingquan? Shi Yuan asked, surprised. It is written very clearly on the front. Su Xing indicated towards that slab of a stone monument in the room. Written upon it from the beginning were the 2 words, a chance. Below were an additional few rows of inscriptions. The characters carved on the steel wound and twisted, written in a forceful hand. It showed the carver's capabilities that were at the pinnacle of perfection, and the steel's inscription was not carved with any sort of tool. When the pen flowed, it flowed smoothly, as if Songjie were creating characters profound and mysterious. Wu Xinjie looked and nodded. The Wind Divine carving, too, of the legendary 4-Styles school founder Qingquan's 4-Styles refinement, was comprehended to the highest levels. Everyone curiously looked at the inscriptions. The inscription was written thus: Bagua sets the Qingquan, 4-Styles all same schools. The mundane enters my gatekeeper, the heart's wisdom births chance. Sarira 3 confers wisdom root, creative heaven astral winds bestowed. This secret raises 4-Styles, our self passes to eternity. The inscription was very short, yet the meaning was completely simple. More or less it said, as long as the 4-Styles school disciples undid the Bagua, then this Taoist master's tomb could be found. After that time, because of the heart's wisdom and resourcefulness of that disciple, a chance would be obtained. This Taoist master will grant unto him a Sarira, presenting to him the Qian heaven astral winds. Use this Taoist name to raise this sect. Our self can serve contributions of 1,000 years, fame leaving behind these annals. Wu Xinjie explained. This really was the Taoist master's resting place. Ah, what kind of things are the Sarira and the creative heaven astral winds? Shi Yuan was muddled. Is it this? Lin Yingmei said as she all of a sudden pointed at the skeleton that died sitting. Su Xing and the rest shifted their gazes over, and discovered after a search that an azure pearl was hidden on the skeleton. It was like jade yet not like jade, like stone yet not like stone. Su Xing held it in his hand, and he suddenly thought of something. From his person, he took out another pearl that bore a close resemblance, just that it was red in color. Sarira? Su Xing looked at Wu Xinjie. Though Xinjie has heard of Buddhist Sariras, but those are multicolored. They are not like this. The knowledge star did not understand. The efficacious star suddenly recalled something, shouting in amazement. Could it be that 5 spirits magic Sarira? The efficacious star seemed considerably shocked. 5 spirits magic Sarira? Wu Xinjie was blank. Seeing that everyone was baffled, and Suan swallowed and explained. The 5 spirits magic Sarira is a legendary tool refinement master's highest product. The most top-notch tool refinement master on his deathbed can urge the true flame in his body to concentrate the best feature of his body into a single piece. This is the 5 spirits magic Sarira. This kind of 5 spirits magic Sarira is made with the heart blood of a top-notch tool refinement master, and it could be said to be an item anyone would yearn for day and night. Of course, this sort of 5 spirits magic Sarira was not that easy to find. Only those pinnacle tool refinement masters that willingly produced it could work, and in the case this tool refinement master did produce it, then he would have reached the end of his life. It could be said that the tool refinement master traded his life for it, and it would not necessarily be produced every time. The 5 spirits magic Sarira was even more legendary than the Buddhist Sarira. Once, the Crystal Dragon King's palace came out with a 5 spirits magic Sarira, and its worth in gold was more than 100 billion liang. When Su Xing finished listening, he was shocked. Isn't that saying this type of Sarira could change a rookie into a tool refinement scholar? Besides tool refinement skill, not at the level of a great scholar's. Using it for a tool refinement's pinnacle true flame is very much on the level of a great scholar. Wu Xinjie said, a tool refinement master's true flame needed to accumulate 100 years, be able to refine a 5 spirits magic Sarira. Its power naturally could be imagined. How very defiant of the natural order. Su Xing clicked his tongue. So terrifying. Then Su Xing can become a great scholar after refining it? Shi Yuan blinked, somewhat excited. Is this also a 5 spirits magic Saraira? Su Xing held up the red pearl and asked. This piece was obtained from Yuqi Qingshan, meaning he also was a peak tool refinement scholar. And Suwen examined it, and drew in a breath of cold air. She looked at Su Xing in disbelief. Big brother, you perhaps are this world's most envied person. This is a 5 spirits magic Saraira. From the color, it seems to be fire type. The Taoist Master Qingquan's is wind? Yes. With things like this, Master having 2 Sarairas of fire and wind is equivalent to a tool refinement scholar. Yin Yizhen stared blankly. However, refining it requires time. But if Big Brother wants to master the 4 styles refining, it can actually save much time. And Suwen said, if they proceeded, Su Xing's 5 styles would have the 3 types of earth, fire, and wind. If only he mastered water and thunder, then it would be settled. The form was not just very good, it was a major good. And where is that creative heaven astral wind art? Lin Yingmei asked. Right under your nose. Su Xing looked all around the walls. The complex and cryptic relief sculptures like tadpoles on the wall were densely packed and decorated the entire room. Everything on these? Shi Yuan's eyes spun. He made things so troublesome, and for what? This also is probably a test. Wu Xinjie guessed. The Bagua mechanism of a tomb hidden underground, or the Bagua terror-inflicting array just now. Perhaps the Taoist Master Qingquan wanted to choose someone that, regardless of the root of wisdom, was a disciple whose capabilities that were outstanding to inherit his creative heaven astral winds. In addition, the characters on this wall were the final hoop. If these writings were ignored, even if the 5 spirits magic Saraira was obtained, it could not display its effects. To Su Xing, this was not a difficult problem. The heart-like mirror absolute sincerity soul technique broke, and those complex characters were projected into his ocean of consciousness. In an instant, the incantation upon it appeared line by line. Su Xing hurriedly memorized it, discovering that besides the creative heaven astral wind's secret, the entire room's script had additionally hidden an innate Qingquan escape technique. 5. Disciple Su Xing. Though the 4 styles school cannot guarantee that it can bring you to the height of your development, it will exhaust everything it can. 6. Su Xing carefully bowed towards the Taoist Master Qingquan 3 times with his arms held in front of him. The Taoist Master Qingquan putting so much consideration into this had made him moved. After reigniting the longevity lamps in this grave, only then did Su Xing and the girls leave this quiet tomb. Just as they left, the Taoist Master Qingquan's remains turned to dust. As if his wish was satisfied, he did not leave even the slightest trace. Coming out of the Bagua diagram, it was just like a century had passed. Su Xing slightly sighed. Originally, he only wanted to let Wu Xinjie sound out the difficulties and retreat after finding how things really were. But who would have that not only did they accidentally find the Taoist Master Qingquan's tomb, they also obtained the heaven and wind relics, as well as the heaven and wind arts, the innate Qingquan escape technique. Even more gratifying was that in Suwen's essence swallowing dragons also finally reached more than 150 in number. How was it? Su Xing solving the labyrinth has brought many benefits. Shi Yuan excitedly said. This time Sister Xinjie and I can go all out, right? Su Xing was just about to reply when an escape light shook straight from the sky. The girls immediately entered the star nest upon seeing this, and Su Xing inwardly said, Shit, still deferentially going up to greet him. It's you. The one who came was not just anyone, but precisely the 4 styles school headmaster, the Taoist Master Xiantian. How are you here? The Taoist Master Xuantian's eyes revealed confusion. Disciple passed by this place and thought something happened when he saw 2 senior brothers fall asleep. Thus disciple entered the tomb. Su Xing said. Only when the Taoist Master Xiantian sensed a difference in the Qingquan tomb did he rush over. And hearing Su Xing's explanation, sure enough, the mountain guarding disciples had fallen asleep. Do you not know this is a forbidden area? The Taoist Master Xiantian wrinkled his brow. A brief moment of anxiety made disciple forget. Disciple willingly accepts punishment. Su Xing sincerely said, "What did you find?" The Taoist Xiantian did not acknowledge, but asked another question. Su Xing shook his head. Disciple did not dare blaspheme, and did not stop over for long. In the future, make no further mention of this matter. Go back first. Afterwards, there will not be anything special. Entering the forbidden area of the Qiankuan Mound, excusing the fact that you are a disciple that has just entered the school, this incident will be overlooked. Do not do this again. Disciple solemnly obeys these instructions. Su Xing repeatedly thanked. Just as he prepared to leave, the Taoist master Xiantian suddenly recalled something, saying, "Su Xing, follow this headmaster a while." Su Xing was puzzled, and saw the Taoist master Xiantian struck his magic energy to rouse the sleeping disciples. His riding sword then flew towards Pure Heart Peak, which Su Xing followed. Su Xing, how are your recent tool refinement studies? Have you encountered difficult problems? The Taoist master Xuantian's voice that was neither too fast nor too slow appeared in Su Xing's ears. Many thanks for headmaster's concern. Master has treated disciple very well. The Taoist master Xuantian's tone was profound. Ever since you arrived, this headmaster has not been this lively in a very long time. Disciple has been unreasonable. Su Xing knew he was speaking of the matters these past few days. He had heard that Ruan Hongxue was the Taoist master Xuantian's granddaughter. He had bullied her like that. So he did not know whether or not that uncivilized girl went and grumbled to the headmaster. The Taoist master Xiantian did not show any intent to take anything out on Su Xing. His face carried a slight smile, seemingly as if he was somewhat lamenting while brimming with a trace of joy. The sect has always needed a little energy, so long as everything is within the old generation. This headmaster did not know if he was in his declining years, and saw many things had opened. With regards to the matter of Hongxue, she is indeed too tsundere. Your chastisement was very correct. Disciple does not dare do it the next time. No need to be this reserved. This headmaster actually wanted to rely on you to correct her tsundere temperament. Ha ha, ha ha, her age is also not small anymore. If this headmaster could obtain a grandson while he still had life, then that would be pretty good. 7. Young lord would not fancy that little girl at all. Shi Yuan was displeased. Su Xing blushed with shame, feeling that this headmaster had the intent to act as a go-between. The Taoist master Xiantian very quickly flew to the headmaster's building and invited Su Xing to enter. Su Xing did not know what he wanted to do, but the master of the magnificent four-style school was unlikely to hurt him. The headmaster's pavilion was decorated with an old elegance, and the Taoist master Xiantian directly brought Su Xing to a secret room. He saw the bookshelves inside this secret room crisscrossed, completely filled with books and works. This headmaster sees your cultivation has reached Nebula Peak, and should be entering Galaxy Stage. The Taoist master Xiantian only then stated his intent. He warmly smiled. Su Xing, have you considered what sword art to cultivate? Although this headmaster is declining, and neither is this a sword-cultivating great sect, we have previously gathered many sword arts. You can choose any two from here to go practice. Su Xing was stunned. Although you have only entered this sect for 10 days, this Taoist master treats you like his own disciple. Since you are quickly about to reach Galaxy Stage, this sword art should be granted unto you by this headmaster, as it should be by rights. Su Xing clearly understood. It seemed this four-style school indeed was declining in power. He had not reached Galaxy Stage, yet he had roped in the headmaster like this. If it was any other great sect, it would simply be a matter of he being under the banner of a master. How could he be worthy of a headmaster's worry? Thinking back to the Taoist master Qiankuan's grave, Su Xing secretly sighed. Su Xing was not in a position to decline, and add on that he was curious about the four-style school sword arts. He sought for them inside this classic storage pavilion. It was reasonable to say that the four-style school, as an ancient nine-dragon school, should have more than a few supreme grade rare books. But Su Xing searched for half a day and discovered that not even seeing one was genuinely incredible. This made Su Xing very flabbergasted. Seeing Su Xing's bewilderment, the Taoist master Xiantian then explained the reason. The Four Styles school in the past indeed had many supreme grade, even ancient sword arts. It was just that when the sect-extinguishing disaster occurred, they were looted with nothing left. Currently, the remaining sword arts mostly were conserved by pure fluke, or created by a few disciples in the following 100 years. Inside were some sword arts that really were not that bad. But to Su Xing, this type of grade was far from contending against Zhao Hanyan's 72 outer void flying immortals. So practicing them undoubtedly somewhat squandered time. Su Xing feigned satisfaction as he picked, finally choosing a 108 Qingquan overturned sword art. This was saved by the 5th-generation headmaster, but cultivating it was abnormally challenging. 108 swords required heavenly Qian magnetite, 2 in Kuan spinning sand 3, to forge. It was simply unable to be practiced. The reason why Su Xing chose this was only because he felt this 108 was mutually a good fit with the heavenly spirit earthly fiend purple star 5 elements sword. Upon it was recorded a few sword arrays that could not be said for sure to intercommunicate usage. Allow this headmaster to say some words out of kindness. Youngsters must not bite off more than they can chew. Being able to adapt yourself is the most important. The Taoist master Xiantian stared blankly when he saw the sword art Su Xing chose, thinking that Su Xing had been attracted by the link recorded in the sword art, and he immediately advised him. With Su Xing's current capabilities, forging 108 Qingquan swords simply was an impossible to achieve assignment. Su Xing, this 18 dark fire heavenly li sword, or this 4 styles 1 qi sword, 5 also suit you. Many thanks to headmaster, but disciple has a different plan. Su Xing said. The Taoist master Xiantian muttered to himself, but did not stop Su Xing. Since your intentions are already decided, that is fine. If you encounter a problem, you can speak to this headmaster. Thanks, headmaster. Disciple engraves this great favor to memory. Su Xing bowed. Before he left, the Taoist master Xiantian also gave him a bottle of transforming qi powder that could break through to galaxy cultivation. Although it could not be compared to something like the river scattering pill, it was still a spirit pill. By the time Su Xing left the headmaster's pavilion, he had an additional 2 unexpected harvests. Why is this Taoist master Xiantian this intent on roping Su Xing in? The girls emerged from the star nest, and Shi Yuan asked, confused. Young Lord used Nebula 6's late-stage divine sense to thwart Jiao Shu, and he can also easily take a nebula magic weapon when confronting it. Finally, one person regulating more than a dozen cultivators at the same stage. Wouldn't you say young lord attracts attention? Wu Xinjie smiled. The cultivation Su Xing currently displayed was something he possessed prior to entering the school. As one might imagine, the inside of the sect would certainly spare no effort to give Su Xing benefits to make him have even more of a sense of belonging. So much so that Su Xing wanted to let those inside the sect forge the heavenly spirit earthly fiend purple star 5 elements, swords with element sword, without the slightest hesitation and consent. Only, it was a pity this type of immemorial sword art absolutely could not be made public. Ju Yueka also should have movements. Wu Xinjie guessed. Go as you wish. Su Xing happily reaped where he had not sown. Seeing Su Xing's expression was cheerful, Wu Xinjie's charming voice said. Then, young lord, what do you think of Xinjie's proposal? Do you really want to go to the Azure Dragon territory to solve a few of the labyrinths on the 10,000 spirits notice you spoke of? Su Xing asked. Xinjie does not wish to be idle. Su Xing knew the knowledge star had fixed her resolve. Turning his head to Lin Wangmai and Yin Yizhen, he said. Then you two go together with Xinjie. Master, it is necessary to have one person stay behind to protect you. Forgive slave servant for difficulty in complying. Yin Yizhen was stern. Young lord, do not make Xinjie worry about you. Wu Xinjie softly said. You also saw it. Mazes and puzzles inevitably are solvable, but the dangers are not few. Su Xing was not able to relax over this point. Although Wu Xinjie and Shi Yuan combined were strong, Their martial strength actually was still somewhat deficient. Lin Yingmei said, "Young master, let your servant go together along with the knowledge star." Having been in contact for so long, Lin Yingmei's and Wu Xingjia's friendship was fairly deep. Seeing that Wu Xingjia wanted to exert a bit of strength, naturally she had somewhat of an understanding. Then good. Su Xing nodded. "Yin Yizhen, you must protect young master," Lin Yingmei solemnly said to Yin Yizhen. Su Xing smiled. "Yingmei, this place is the Four Style School's center. How could there be any danger? Moreover, am I that unable to withstand a single blow? Apologies, your servant." Lin Yingmei exposed a trace of regret. Su Xing interrupted her words. He actually did not mind, but hearing Lin Yingmei's tone was that concerned, he actually was somewhat happy. "You girls hold on to this purple star token. If something dangerous happens, immediately use parodies in a flash," Su Xing ordered. Seeing Wu Xingjia still wanted to decline, he said in a commanding tone, "If you are unable to let me be at ease over this point, then I cannot let you girls go out." Xingjia understands. Wu Xingjia bit her lip. "But how will elder sister go?" And Suwen suddenly asked, recalling a difficult problem. The Azure Dragon territory was so vast, and those labyrinths and remains were separated by great distances. If she relied solely on her 2 legs, a month of time simple could only open a few, which was a problem. Furthermore, the Four Styles School was isolated on its lonesome on the sea, so returning was troublesome. No need to worry. Yuan already finished a flight mechanism. Although its speed is somewhat slower, it is usable. Wu Xingjia said, "It would be better to first wait a bit. See whether or not I can borrow an even better chariot." Su Xing said. Mirror's flower stream. Bamboo forest house. Tang Lianxin sat inside the house, reading an old book held in his hands. His expression was serious and cold. He did not even care that Su Xing entered the house. "Tang Lianxin, what are you looking at?" Su Xing took the chance to sit beside Tang Lianxin, placing one hand naturally upon his shoulder. Tang Lianxin seemed to be unaccustomed to Su Xing being this close. His brow creased, but he did not pay attention. Su Xing was already accustomed to that antisocial and apathetic disposition of his. Seeing Tang Lianxin reading a tool refinement true flame program, his heart said this child really was obsessed. That Four Schools' deep arts' recorded mutual engenderment refinement style could be rated as exquisite. And now, he again was researching how he could use some other type of method to replace the Four Styles refining. "That book you gave me last time was very enlightening, so I really don't know how I should thank you." And that expression of Tang Lianxin's probably wanted to say, "Letting go with your hand will do." Su Xing pretended to be oblivious, smiling. "Are we not brothers?" "No." Tang Lianxin did not want that. "It can't be. We count as brothers no matter what, right? You saw that I helped you, so you gave me a very useful book. Any way you put it, our relationship is very close. Master said to make us close as brothers. Wouldn't you saying this make her feel very hurt? Every day we sleep together, and last time, you even hugged my arm. Is our relationship still not close?" Tang Lianxin's pupils widened, his ears turning red. Su Xing began to continuously utter embellishments. The beautiful girls in the star nest could not clearly figure out what medicine he was selling. Just what is Su Xing doing? Sure, Yuan was confused. This Tang Lianxin is somewhat strange. Wu Xingjia was puzzled. Strange? Indeed. Young lord is this close. And he still has that manner that makes people stay 3 chi away. Truly dislikable. Sure, Yuan said. If you have something to say, just say it. Do not disturb me. Tang Lianxin finally could not take Su Xing's blabbering. The more he spoke, the more he was lost. He revealed many of his sleeping posture secrets, making Tang Lianxin somewhat resentful. Big brother has something he needs to request in return. Can you help big brother? Su Xing chuckled. The reason why he chatted this long was to make the two's relationship even closer by some. What business do you have? It's this. Could you lend me that fire beacon chariot of yours for me to use? Oh, it's like this. I am very curious about flight astral tools, so I want to research. Su Xing saw Tang Lianxin show suspicion, so he promptly explained. It's fine if you can't. I was only randomly asking. Don't ruin our brotherly bonds because of this. Su Xing laughed. He did not have much of a hope that he would lend his astral tool. Tang Lianxin's hand moved and placed the fire beacon chariot on the ground. Then, he buried his head back in the book without saying a word. Thanks. Su Xing did not expect he would unexpectedly be this good at speaking, patting his shoulder. In the future, if you encounter anything bothersome, tell Big Brother and that will do. If you were a woman, I'd really want to give you a kiss, haha. All the girls blushed with shame. Leaving the bamboo forest, Su Xing lent the fire beacon chariot to Wuxia. With this kind of astral tool treasure chariot, he could be even more at ease. 7. Who is that Tang Lianxin? Surprisingly, he has a flight astral tool. Shi Yuan was astonished. Originally, even if it was an astral tool, flight astral tools were even fewer. It's probably something he refined himself. Su Xing saw Tang Lianxin's tool refinement extreme talent, and coming out with 2 astral tools, he randomly said something. Wu Xingjia's brow locked tight. In short, you girls be careful. Yingmei, carefully look after Xinjia and Yuaner. Su Xing instructed. Yingmei understands. This nevertheless was still the first time they would be apart for a month. Although it was not long, it still actually made Su Xing somewhat reluctant to part. Thank you, young lord, for letting Xinjia be willful. Wu Xinjia restrained her feelings, smiling. She stepped forward and stood tiptoe. Drawing herself past Su Xing's neck, she deep kissed him. The lips of the two lingered, and only when she was made to pant did the knowledge star drop her lips. This young lady also wants to. Shi Yuan was not resigned to let this chance pass. In front of everyone's faces they kissed. After their passionate kiss, Shi Yuan's beautiful body powerlessly fell onto Su Xing's shoulder. That was really good. Finally, they directed their gazes to the girl with the blank face. Lin Yingmei stared blankly, realizing the meaning of these expressions. Her face turned slightly red, and she retreated a step. She firmly said, "It is not necessary for your servant. Little sister Yingmei, why are you shy? You will not see young master for a month. Can you endure it?" Wu Xinjia giggled and pushed her. Lin Yingmei was pushed into Su Xing's chest. The girl's clean pupils were somewhat helpless like a fawn's. Young master, don't. Recalling that other night when he helped Lin Yingmei change into the belly band, the girl's gentle as water appearance, Su Xing's heart stirred. Smiling, he pulled her in and tenderly kissed Lin Yingmei's lips. Lin Yingmei's pupils froze. She was somewhat inexperienced for her first kiss, but when Su Xing's tongue pried open the girl's white teeth, wantonly sucking her sweetness, both of Lin Yingmei's arms trembled slightly as she grabbed Su Xing's clothes. Her eyes were misty, completely surrendering under the man's dominance. Her tongue unconsciously hooked around his forlornly. They sucked at each other, responded to each other. It seemed as if this kiss lasted a century. The nearby beauties were startled, dumbstruck. Was this really that legendary majestic star? Accepting Wu Xinjia's influence, the remaining people of Flaming Eastern Island made an even greater effort. And Suwen returned to the Void Immortal's abode and began to compound a spirit medicine for the breakthrough to galaxy stage. Su Xing returned to the bamboo house to thank Tang Lianxin, only to discover he was not inside. From the hot spring behind the bamboo house came noises. Su Xing clearly understood then. Wu Xinjia made him care more for this child, saying that his help was very great. He thought that although Tang Lianxin's temperament was antisocial, he actually was largely very helpful to Su Xing. And just that 4 styles refinement already was pretty good. Su Xing pondered, then stripped and walked in. Flaming Eastern Island's underground fires were continuous, its hot springs countless. To count any of Flaming Eastern Island's most useful specialties, this soaking in a hot spring was categorized as the first. This hot spring of the Mirror's flower stream was a place that especially delightful. Steam rose in spirals with a sort of feeling of being wholly changed. Why are you back so early this time? Tang Lianxin spotted Su Xing and was startled. Big brother returned to accompany you. Su Xing stretched out his arms, walking down into the spa. The burning spa waters cleaned the skin that was recently beaten exhausted, and a kind of comfortable feeling filled his heart. His whole body and his blood vessels seemed to open wide. Tang Lianxin swam to a place further away, staying far from Su Xing. One hand covered his chest while the other was beneath the water. Su Xing saw this guarded appearance of Tang Lianxin and was speechless. It was as if he seemed to be about to violate Tang Lianxin. Su Xing swam towards him. "You don't come over." Tang Lianxin's tone had a rarely seen slight urgency, wanting to escape. Su Xing did not understand how he was this stirred up. Could it be Su Xing himself had developed as being fiendish? Or did it appear that he had that kind of homosexual hobby? The hot spring was not big, so Tang Lianxin very quickly did not have any place to hide. Su Xing swam up beside him, and there was no big deal. He just felt that chatting while near each other was better, nothing more. "Brother Tang, you really are shy. We're both men, so what is there to be ashamed of?" Su Xing washed his body, objecting to Tang Lianxin. Tang Lianxin did not speak, only shutting his eyes. Su Xing felt that he truly was bashful to the point of being interesting. He even more could not help but want to tease him. "Why aren't you washing? Big brother will help wipe your back." Saying this, one hand grabbed Tang Lianxin, and his other held a bath towel, wiping it on Tang Lianxin's back. Tang Lianxin's skin was fair and tender, making Su Xing unable to refrain from being somewhat surprised. This simply was like a woman's skin. Tang Lianxin shrieked, leaving Su Xing. "Don't touch me. You aren't a woman, right?" Su Xing was stunned by this emotional reaction of his. "I just do not like letting people wipe my back. I can do it myself." Tang Lianxin seemed to feel his own reaction was too intense and calmed down. He raised his gaze to look squarely at Su Xing, but with this glance, his eyes were about to pop from their sockets. Su Xing just happened at this time felt that this side was not too awkward, and he rose, wanting to change positions. His scarlet body immediately was revealed before Tang Lianxin's eyes. In particular, Tang Lianxin's line of sight happened to be level with Su Xing's waist and below, taking in everything. His face was red, as if swirling with fire. He submerged half his face into the hot spring, letting out bubbles with a gulugulu sound. Su Xing this bashfulness and laughed. In the army, he was already used to this, so he was far from being like this shyness of his. He really is a pure and innocent boy, Su Xing thought. "Buddy, you being this shy is intolerable. You're already like this looking at a man. If you reach the wedding night of the woman you like, then wouldn't you have a nosebleed?" Su Xing had a commanding, instructive tone. Under Wu Xingji's enticement, this guy's skin had become very thick. And, seeing his blankness, Su Xing said nothing more. Each minding their own business, they enjoyed the hot spring. Having been in Lianshan for this long, this still was the first thing that let Su Xing separate enjoyable and familiar things. In his ocean of consciousness, he asked his personal maid Yin Yizhen whether or not she would like to take a soak together, but the reply was silence, of course. Flaming Eastern Islands underground fires were very heavy. Soaking for long in a hot spring with this type of temperature would make people faint with blurred vision. Ordinary star cultivators would find it unbearable, and only when Su Xing used star energy did he improve to an extent. As he bathed, Su Xing suddenly discovered a bit of blood red drifting on the water. Su Xing was startled, believing somewhere on himself that he had a problem. However, as he found that the blood red was increasing, his gaze then followed it over. Surprisingly, it was Tang Lianxin. This child unexpectedly actually had a nosebleed. A pervert, then, to have a nosebleed from looking at a man's body. Su Xing's goosebumps rose. Just as he wanted to stay far away from him, abruptly, at this time, Tang Lianxin was somewhat not too normal. Su Xing saw his eyes were hazy, powerless and in poor health. His hand covered his nose while the other pulled himself over the edge of the bath. That hand sheltering his chest no longer covered it. Through that faintly discernible surface of the water, Su Xing discovered his pectorals were slightly swollen. Looking like a woman's skin, his pectorals were somewhat developed. That's not right. Right now he was not thinking about that sort of random thing. Su Xing unexpectedly discovered Tang Lianxin had fainted from soaking in the hot spring. This guy really is odd. Already like this, yet he still didn't leave. Seeing Tang Lianxin vaguely lost consciousness, his body slid into the water. Su Xing immediately swiftly hugged him, leaping onto the bank. He reprimanded. Just how long did you soak in the hot spring? Do you want to die? From Tang Lianxin's breath came an alluring groan. Su Xing shivered. Suddenly, he saw Tang Lianxin's slightly swollen chest was somewhat not too normal. If they were developed pectoral muscles, there was no reason for them to be breasts bulging like hills. But these also were not like a woman's chest. Feeling this was too inadequate, Su Xing then suddenly found that Tang Lianxin's throat was smooth. Without an Adam's apple, Su Xing unconsciously looked towards Tang Lianxin's lower half. This glance almost made Su Xing have a nosebleed. He saw that Tang Lianxin's secret place was completely convex. That secret garden did not have any grass to cover it, exactly like the hairless genitals of a woman. The most important thing was that it presented a side completely opposite to a man's physiology. She was a girl. Su Xing immediately leaked blood. Fuck me, this guy surprisingly actually was a woman. Tang Lianxin slowly opened her eyes. Her head was dizzy, and she felt as if she had dreamt a very peculiar dream. Just when she was enjoying the hot spring, a man suddenly charged in. He who did not know her identity as a woman began to greet her, moreover groping her as he wished. Tang Lianxin wanted to leave, but she did not dare rise in front of the man, lest she expose her body. During this careful pondering, that man then very expertly revealed everything in front of her. The Tang Lianxin, who had never seen this type of battle array, had her brain immediately short-circuit. Her nose released heat, and that man endlessly clamored beside her ear, saying something about close brothers should be frank, that they must not regard each other as outsiders. Just kidding, I, Tang Lianxin, am a woman, and who would be a brother with you? That man seemingly was very fascinated by the spa, unwilling to leave even after several hours. Tang Lianxin at this time felt her head was more and more murky, and the dream she had afterward was somewhat unclear. It seemed she was carried without wearing one thread out from the hot spring by that man. Without wearing one thread. Tang Lianxin's eyes opened. Immediately, she opened the blanket, and saw she was currently wearing her undergarments. Tang Lianxin slightly exhaled, but her face all of a sudden became even more unsightly. She undoubtedly soaked in the spa naked, so how could she possibly be wearing clothes? Furthermore, there abruptly was a sound outside the room. Seeing someone had entered the house, Tang Lianxin unconsciously shut her eyes to feign sleep. She had not finished thinking how she should go about confronting this embarrassment. The man who entered was none other than Su Xing. How has she still not awoken? Su Xing sat beside the bed. He took up the girl's wrist, taking her pulse. Inheriting in Suwen's medical expertise, he was somewhat heartful of medical knowledge. Seeing the girl's breath was seemingly long and ragged, it was not too steady, but it seemed that she should have no problems. Buddy, buddy, you pretended to be a woman for what? Su Xing was nearby, talking to himself. Forget it. You must have your own way of thinking, and I don't feel like investigating it. Although you're a woman, Big Brother does not mind. I will still regard you as a little sister. Su Xing's fingers ran through the girl's hair, his voice exceptionally gentle. If he could see the expression of Yin Yizhen inside the star nest, the maid very much wanted to roll her eyes. You can't blame Big Brother for just now. I didn't expect that you were a woman, otherwise, Big Brother would not soak in the spa together with you. However, mixed bathing actually isn't anything alarming. We're all family. But while I did take a peep, I definitely did not grope you. I helped my woman change clothes before. And it was rather simple. When Su Xing spoke this, his face was somewhat embarrassed because when he helped Tang Lianxin put on her underwear, at that time, he had actually forgotten he could call for Yin Yizhen. It was just that Yin Yizhen did not say anything, so Su Xing forgot for a while. For a man, it was hard to avoid being slightly excited when helping the little white tiger put on her underwear. The Tang Lianxin feigning sleep did not see this at all. Su Xing continued with a fake cough, recovering his seriousness, then seemingly lamented. His tone blamed himself yet was tender-hearted. You must not blame yourself. Big Brother will feel very apologetic. After a short period, seeing that Tang Lianxin was still unconscious, Su Xing helplessly sighed. Big brother will go make a bowl of lotus seed congee for you. Saying this, he then covered Tang Lianxin with the blanket, rose and left. When Su Xing left, Tang Lianxin opened her eyes. She did not know when, but those pale cheeks of hers were already red. The girl's pupils continuously held an extraordinary splendor. Struggling for a while, she finally faintly sighed. Lobby. Su Xing really did boil a bowl of warm and steaming lotus seed swallows nest congee. Tu Yin Yizhen inside his ocean of consciousness asked, confused. Master, just now, what is the reason you would say that? If not just now, then when? Su Xing had no alternative. Briefly explaining, when he took Tang Lianxin's pulse, he felt her heartbeat accelerate, which let him know that she already was awake. She merely pretended to sleep, perhaps because her heart was flustered to the point she did not know how she should confront the situation facing her. A girl's exposed body will always have ill towards it. But not only was she exposed, she was revealed in such an extreme manner. Perhaps even more for her. She was slightly out of her wits. Particularly, she did not know just what sort of thinking Su Xing had. Only for this reason did Su Xing pretend to talk to himself to explain things simply and clearly, while also secretly letting the girl know she could be at ease, that he looked upon her as a little sister. As far as how the result was, Su Xing could only submit to the will of heaven. With light footfalls, Tang Lianxin walked out at this time. She wore tightly sealed clothing, her pupils looking pensively, yet she looked at Su Xing with an expression brimming with coldness and bitterness. Little sister Lianxin, you're up? Su Xing greeted her. Tang Lianxin glanced at the hot and steaming lotus seed swallow's nest congee on the table, icily saying to Su Xing, what you said just now was actually true. Absolutely true. Su Xing swore. You truly will not inform on me? Tang Lianxin's tone was frigid. Big brother was still late in protecting you, so how could I inform on you? Su Xing twitched his lips, deeming this beneath himself. Tang Lianxin stared blankly for a time. She bit her teeth. Right now, roll yourself outside for me. From tonight onwards, I will not sleep together with you. Hearing these daydream-provoking words, Su Xing laughed out loud, knowing Tang Lianxin at last had recovered. Ingmei, can Xinjie ask you a question? The fire beacon chariot flashed by with the speed of a shooting star. Wu Xinjie looked at Lin Ingmei and abruptly smiled. What question? Lin Ingmei looked at her. Just how did you sign your contract with young lord? Wu Xinjie was truly curious about this. She believed that she was not the only one. But any person would be brimming with curiosity about the legendary majestic star that had signed a contract, when she had never done so. From that kiss when they had just left, Lin Ingmei apparently had not been compelled at all. Yeah, elder sister Ingmei. How did young Lord Su Xing make you sign a contract? Shi Yuan asked. This is not important. Lin Ingmei shook her head. Seeing that Lin Ingmei's disinclined to reply manner, Wu Xinjie stuck out her tongue and no longer questioned her. The fire beacon chariot suddenly stopped, and Wu Xinjie gazed at a hill far into the distance. What's the matter? Sister Xinjie, the King Liang historical remains aren't here, right? Shi Yuan said. Lin Ingmei followed Wu Xinjie's line of sight, and also spotted that upper ridge, and her eyelids could not help but jump. That is Jingyang Ridge. Wu Xinjie exclaimed all of a sudden. I never heard of Jingyang Ridge having anything good. Shi Yuan pondered. Wu Xinjie shook her head. They say that after the birth outline of the Star Duel's second phase begins, a slant-eyed white-headed beast will sometimes appear on Jingyang Ridge. Slant-eyed white-headed beast? Shi Yuan's brows wrinkled. Inside her memories of the Star Duels, she vaguely remembered a trace of the meaning contained in this name. I seem to have heard of this before. You'll know it by its other name. What name? The slant-eyed white-headed beast is known to us sisters as the white and black unicorn tiger beast. 2. White and black unicorn tiger? Shi Yuan was astonished. This isn't. It is exactly the pilgrim Wusong's starborn beast. 3. Wu Xinjie said with certainty, a peculiar brilliance within her eyes. Ah, so it's elder sister Wusong's. Shi Yuan said in admiration. No wonder the previous generation's Wusong could proudly fight for supremacy. We can only obtain our star beasts during the third phase. An elder sister Wusong surprisingly already obtained hers at the second phase. Obtaining it is nevertheless not simple. Wu Xinjie shook her head, turning her head back to look and smile at the blankly staring Lin Yingmei. Yingmei, should we go to Jingyang Ridge to take a look? It can't be said for sure if we might run into the harm star that will not sign contracts like you. Since the previous generations, the relationship between you and she was pretty good. I heard that it seems the previous generation's Lin Chong almost could for the first time aim for Liangshan, without a contractor. So there was this sort of thing also. Shi Yuan looked at Wu Xinjie with admiration. She proved herself to be the ranked third knowledge star. On the other hand, Shi Yuan herself was unaware of many of the star duel's Liangshan maiden sisters' secret rumors, without exception. Lin Yingmei was briefly distracted before she finally lightly shook her head. We had best not waste time. Young master is still waiting for us. Wu Xinjie thought this over, and also nodded, once again driving the fire beacon chariot. Lin Yingmei turned her head back to glance at that Jingyang Ridge, a pensive look in her eyes. On Jingyang Ridge, an immense white tiger meekly lay on the ground. Its whole body was like snow, completely lacking impurity. Its two pupils looked like frost and snow, close to a transparent white. Two girls leaned upon its body. One of them, a girl with long black hair fine as water, gently pet the white tiger. She was precisely the harm star pilgrim Wusong. Indeed worthy of being the harm star beast. Shower almost just died here. All the bones in Shower's body were broken. Thanks. Remember your agreement with Shower? Shower shrugged her shoulders. Wusong gazed at that cold, splendid beauty of the white tiger, revealing a faint smile. In an instant, she turned her head and glanced at the horizon, her starry eyes half squinted. What's the matter? Shower said. Wusong slightly shook her head. Just at this time, they saw several dozen sword lights flicker onto Jingyang Ridge. Shower yawned. A group of idiot cultivators come to throw away their lives? In the blink of an eye, Jingyang Ridge already was completely surrounded by 100 cultivators. These cultivators stood on flying swords, their hands raising sword artifacts in hand, each and every one a powerful enemy. The one in the lead was a severe old man, and his cultivation had reached the peak of galaxy late stage. 33 raging flame flying swords formed a sword array, appearing to be extraordinary. Wusong, you killed our Nine Sons sect headmaster. If you are willing to sign a contract with our Nine Sons sect, we will not look into this matter any further. Otherwise, do not blame us for being rude. The 100 nebulous stage and above cultivators were brimming with self-confidence. Even if it was the legendary Wusong, being encircled by this many people, it was impossible for her to escape unscathed, right? It seemed this Nine Sons sect wanted to become the first great school in Liangshan continent's history to contract Wusong. Wow, 100-star cultivators. So imposing and scary. Shower giggled. Elder sister Wusong truly has attracted affections. Shall Shower help you? As long as you tell Shower your true name. Humph. The harm star thought this beneath her. That white and black unicorn tiger abruptly stood, and an ice-cold to the extreme aura immediately enveloped Jingyang Ridge. Ah! The slant-eyed white-headed beast? This is bad. Wusong has subdued her star beast. How can this be? How can she subdue this type of star beast? What sort of star general is that girl? Every star cultivator seemed to have already gave rise to a panicked expression. Do not panic. The severe old man shouted, his voice like a booming bell. How could it be that we are afraid of her with this many people? Another one who is not willing to peacefully enjoy his late years. The harm star sneered. Her eyes were like morning stars, bright and penetrating. Then let me send you on a journey. 5 roar. Immediately the white tiger's howl resounded on the ridge. 9 sons had met misfortune with the harm star. Under the pretense of Su Xing's excuse, ever since he knew of Tang Lianxin's identity as a woman, not only did the relationship between the two not fall off, they actually were somewhat close. In psychology, it seemed this probably would be called shared secret, a kind of secret that only 2 people would know that would make their relationship become outstandingly close. Su Xing felt this indeed was rather useful, Su Xing would inquire her about whatever things he did not understand about tool refinement, and Tang Lianxin's level truly was excellent. Many details pertaining to tool refinement were all emptied among each other. If it was any other person, they would need a year to grasp these things, while he did not need even a day to be able to comprehend. This sort of progress could be said to be fierce. Su Xing actually had a plan to ask her to help forge a few powerful bullets for Silver Blade. Not long after, Zhu Yueka also taught Su Xing the introductory soul technique for the heavenly water heart flame. Right now, Su Xing's mission could be said to be burdensome. Every day, he was inside the Purple Star Void Immortal's abode unceasingly cultivating the heavenly water heart flame. The innate Bagua escape technique, chaotic tail escape, absolute sincerity soul technique, the blooming water divine thunder, and purple star transforming chi. Fortunately, he had a purple star grade void immortal's abode. Although his cultivation had been stuck after reaching a bottleneck, the immortal's abode's spirit chi actually helped Su Xing seemingly walk the clear skies in practicing the cultivation methods. And just when Su Xing was occupied increasing his strength, another major event occurred in the Azure Dragon territory. The unique and exceptional genius Xie Yuan, who had been described as the Azure Dragon territory's #1 star master, fought over a heavenly spirit grade chest with another star master. The result was that this top-notch genius unexpectedly lost. In the end, it still took the intervention of a few elders from the Most High Path in order to save him, and this event made the Azure Dragon territory shook up. The cultivators of the Azure Dragon territory discussed 3 immortal and 3 deities of this generation's star duels, the 6 star masters that possessed the greatest talent. The cultivation of these 6 were not only at galaxy stage and above, their strength and background were all exceptional. In particular was Azure Dragon territory's #1 great sect, the Most High Path Xie Yuan, who was even more chosen as Azure Dragon territory's head star master. However, no one had ever expected he would surprisingly lose at the hands of another star master. And the name of that star master that struck down Xie Yuan with a single blow was immediately memorized by everyone. He had turned into the second name, after the purple thunder monster that shook Liangshan. Coming from the Black Turtle territory, he was the Holy Lord of Draconic Demon. Yellow Sea, the 100 seabirds carrying the birth outline chest on their backs, let out a grievous howl, before finally withering and dissipating into the clouds, dropping the chest. Plundering a birth outline at the Yellow Sea, it was the Yellow Sea sect, the giant whale gang, 6 which specialized in cultivating water arts. The sect's disciples exceeded 1,000 people, and even a few great schools with 10,000 people did not dare rashly provoke them on the seas. Quickly go snatch it back, a bald man shouted in a loud voice. A cultivator riding a giant whale rushed towards the chest. In an instant, the expressions of the cultivators close to the chest contorted in bitter pain as they fell into the sea. They saw the chest was being supported by a clump of black smoke. The giant whale gang's cultivators were scared pale, every one of them stopping their movements. A black phantom appeared in it, cradling the chest in his hands. TCH, an earthly fiend grade chest. Makes this holy lord extremely disappointed. The man muttered. Fellow, the earthly fiend grade chest was robbed and killed for by the giant whale gang. We also ask that fellow not set down the chest, for amiability makes you rich. A tall and sturdy man cupped his fist, while secretly using sound transmission, to give the order to his subordinates to prepare to snatch it back. What kind of thing are you? What qualifications do you have to make demands of this holy lord? The man hooked his lips into a sinister smile. Daring to call yourself holy lord, then do not blame us. The big man saw that he was no more than at galaxy middle stage. How could he be afraid? The 100 giant whale gang cultivators struck hand seals, and a magic circle fluttered. A great array appeared on the tranquil sea, enveloping the man in array light as the sea waters boiled. Whale roar sea flipping array. 7 The giant whale gang loudly shouted. Ha 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 ha. Truly too laughable. Unexpectedly playing with maritime tactics in front of this holy lord. The man chuckled. Xiangfei, let them know what is called displaying your skills before an expert. A gorgeous and alluring girl was revealed. It's a Star General? Star Master. A Galaxy Middle Stage Star Master. When she appeared, the giant whale gang disciples all shouted in fright. The woman raised her hand and revealed a sword with a carved dragon. Then, waving the carved dragon sword, the white dragon carved onto the sword swam out. The sword compressed into a weapon that was like a stick yet not like one. The giant whale gang's big man could tell that was a long lance. 8. That's the White Knight dragon carving lance. 9. What? You're the Holy Lord of Draconic Demon. Quickly kill! The 100 disciples shouted. The girl whose hand grasped the dragon carving sword was cold. Her forehead released her star crest, the weapon's white dragon flying to and fro. They saw a white light suddenly shine. The whale roar sea flipping array was unexpectedly suppressed by her imposing air, and the great array suddenly collapsed. A white light soared, lifting the sea's surface, forming a terrifying white sea dragon. As if it had substance, when everyone saw this frightening magic, they were all stunned. Go! The woman shouted. Roar! The sea dragon roared, turning over the surface of the sea. Immediately, it pounced on all the cultivators, nearly without any margin for resistance. The place the sea dragon swallowed had defenses that were laughably weak. The sea dragon continuously turned over on the sea's surface, and in the blink of an eye, the 100 disciples suffered more than 50% casualties. The tall and sturdy person was unresigned. He raised a sword art, and 22 giant whale swords twisted for a kill on the sea dragon. But the sea dragon was under the operation of the girl. The sword array immediately broke, and though the big man wanted to run, a black light covered his body. Finally, he only saw another girl appear, and his brain was immediately plucked by a black talon. After the battle ended, the sea rolled with red blood dead calm. Not a single cultivator was left. It truly is tedious that the purple star-grade chest still has yet to appear. The black dragon armor girl stretched her face. Holy Lord, another birth outline chest has appeared. The girl holding the dragon carving sword calmly said, stowing her sword. Where? The Holy Lord of Draconic Demon asked, excited. The bow see. That you're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.